While peerless geniuses across the 9 continents awakened in celestial jade palaces, commanding legions of immortal disciples and boundless spirit veins, Shen opened his eyes on the cracked flagstones of a drafty ancestral hall, greeted not by the fragrant aroma of spiritual incense, but by the choking smell of dust and the deafening thunder of 50 debt collectors pounding against the mountain gates. Within 10 breaths, the 5 Alliance Syndicate ledger confirmed his sect dead last across the entire southern province, branding him the laughingstock of the regional cultivation registers under the mocking moniker, the Beggar Master. But what none of the greedy predators encircling his mountain knew was that beneath the weathered tiles under his palms, a dormant heavenly blueprint system had just ignited to his touch, and a golden interface only he could see was already calculating how to turn their multi-million spirit stone siege formations into smoking scrap metal with a single river pebble. When consciousness first flooded back into his skull, the sensation was not the familiar hum of air conditioning or the clicking sound of his studio's computer mouse. It was the icy bite of stone against his knuckles, the bitter taste of stale tea, and an abrasive pounding vibration echoing through the mountain bedrock. 3 steps across, maybe 4 if he dragged his heels, that was the width of the ancestral platform. Peeling red lacquer flaked from ancient cedar pillars, and through a shattered wooden lattice window, he could see jagged gray peaks piercing through a stormy violet sky. A sharp pulse of foreign memory surged through his frontal lobe. He was no longer a senior structural engineer finalizing architectural schematics in a modern metropolis. He was Shen, the newly inherited 18th sect master of the Azure Cloud Pavilion. Yet this grand title came with no glory. His predecessor had perished on an expedition 3 months prior, leaving behind an empty vault, an unpayable debt of 50,000 low-grade spirit stones owed to the Iron Mountain sect, and a territory reduced to a single decaying mountain peak. Before he could even steady his breathing, the heavy oak doors groaned open. Stepping through the threshold was a slender young woman in a tattered frost blue combat tunic. Her silver-white hair was tied into a high ponytail with a frayed silk ribbon, and in her right hand she gripped a slender steel longsword whose edge was chipped in 3 places. A thin streak of crimson ran down her porcelain chin, yet her crystal blue eyes burned with unyielding resolve. Qingxue stated that, "Sect Master, the Iron Mountain sect has breached the lower ravine," her voice steady despite the shallow rise and fall of her chest. "Young Master Zhaofeng has brought 80 heavy shield bearers and their heaven-crushing bronze ram. Our ancestral mist barrier is already flickering at the outer gate. It will collapse before the morning fog clears." Close behind her stumbled Xiaolinger, a girl of 16 with twin emerald buns and wide, terrified hazel eyes. She clutched a battered wicker basket filled with dried roots and an ink-stained ledger. "Senior brother, Elder Murung from the 5 Alliances is standing right beside Zhaofeng. He is holding the mountain deed and shouting that if we do not produce 5,000 spirit stones in interest immediately, the Alliance will sanction our total eradication." Watching the 2 girls brace themselves to make a suicidal last stand for a ruined sect, a strange warmth bloomed behind Shen's eyes. In an engineering triage, hopeless looks one way, bad looks another, and the difference is always whether you can locate the primary load-bearing failure before the roof caves in. A soft chime, resembling the strike of a crystal tuning fork, rang inside his mind. Heavenly Blueprint System successfully initialized. Host identity confirmed, Shen, 18th Master of Azure Cloud Pavilion. Scanning structural domain. Ambient spatial grid established. Ancestral Azure Cloud mist array integrity, 2.8%. Critical stress fracture detected at Node 4 and Node 9. In a single instant, the drab, decaying ancestral hall transformed. Golden grid lines of radiant light projected across every surface, turning the physical world into an interactive 3-dimensional blueprint. Every stone pillar, every rotting timber beam, and every underground spiritual conduit glowed with precise numerical values detailing weight distribution, stress tolerances, and spiritual flow vectors. Floating directly before his chest, a radiant golden scroll unfurled. Unlike the static drawings of his previous life, this blueprint pulsed with living Dao runes, calculating optimal energy pathways with the speed of a supercomputer. 2.8% integrity? Shen whispered to himself, a slow, methodical calm settling over his mind. This isn't an unrecoverable failure. The original array designer merely inverted the spiritual polarity at the primary junction box to save on spirit stone conduits. Turning toward the bewildered young herbalist, Shen spoke in a quiet, measured tone that cut straight through the panic in the room, instructing Ling'er to run to the back creek behind the medicine shed. "Bring me 20 smooth river stones and 5 fragments of discarded spirit iron from the old forge." River stones?
Linger stammered, freezing in place with her basket hugged against her ribs. Senior brother, Zhao Fang's siege ram is reinforced with third-grade crimson spirit alloy. It has enough kinetic force to level a 3-story stone fortress. What can ordinary rocks do against bronze war machinery? Lu Shen explained that just fetch them, his amber eyes reflecting the glowing golden runes of the system interface. In modern engineering, mass is irrelevant if you know where the shear point sits. Go. Without waiting for further questions, Lu Shen adjusted the collar of his frayed white and gold robe and walked toward the gate battlement. Qingxue followed close behind, her sword drawn, silently watching the unfamiliar confidence in her young master's posture. Reaching the edge of the stone rampart, Lu Shen looked down into the gorge. Below the narrow mountain gate stood 80 heavily armored cultivators from the Iron Mountain sect, their bronze breastplates gleaming under the gray dawn. At the front of the formation rested a colossal battering ram mounted on iron tracks, powered by an exposed crimson spirit engine that hummed with volatile heat. Atop an armored warbeast sat young Master Zhao Feng, resting an oversized crimson cleaver across his shoulder with a vicious sneer. Beside him, Grand Elder Murong-Ba stroked his thin mustache, casually flicking the beads of a heavy brass abacus. "Lu Shen, you cowardly turtle!" Zhao Feng's arrogant roar echoed up the mountain walls, amplified by the heavy resonance of a late Foundation establishment cultivator. "Your father's debts are due. Hand over the ancestral land deed, send your 2 little martial sisters down to serve as maidservants in my clan, and perhaps I will spare your limbs so you can beg in the lower market." Beside him, Murong-Ba held up a glowing jade scroll and called out in a nasal, bureaucratic drawl. According to Section 12 of the Southern Province Sect Covenant, insolvency exceeding 90 days results in immediate territorial forfeiture. Sectmaster Lu, do not make this difficult for the Alliance. Standing calmly against the wind on the high battlement, Lu Shen did not draw a weapon or recite an incantation. Instead, his gaze settled entirely on the glowing red lines spreading across the bronze siege ram below. Through the heavenly blueprint interface, the fearsome siege engine was completely laid bare. Pulsing bright scarlet at the center of the engine was a catastrophic structural mismatch. The Iron Mountain blacksmiths had greedily forced high-density fire crystals into a frame made of brittle, low-grade pig iron, relying on a single crude copper valve to vent excess thermal pressure. Young Master Zhao, Lu Shen's voice carried clearly down the canyon, calm, relaxed, and devoid of any fear. Before you order that magnificent ram of yours to fire, let me ask, did your chief artificer remember to balance the thermal expansion coefficient on your central pressure intake? Zhao Feng's mocking laughter choked in his throat for half a second before twisting into red-faced fury. Spouting nonsense to delay the inevitable, disciples ignite the fire core, crush their gate into powder. The bronze ram began to roar. Brilliant crimson flames surged into the piston chambers, vibrating the very ground beneath the gorge as the iron ram head drew back for its final strike. Just then, Xiao Linger sprinted up the steps, panting heavily as she deposited a basket of Gray Creek pebbles at Lu Shen's feet. Without breaking stride, Lu Shen reached down, selected a flat, smooth stone the size of a walnut, and weighed it in his palm. The golden blueprint in his retinas calculated the exact arc, wind resistance, and gravitational drop down to 3 decimal places. With a swift, practiced snap of his wrist, Lu Shen flicked the stone over the battlement. Swish. The pebble cut through the mountain air in a silent, perfect parabola. Slipping cleanly between the protective bronze grates of the siege ram, it jammed directly into the narrow opening of the overheating copper exhaust valve. For one long heartbeat, the canyon went eerily silent. Then came a violent, high-pitched metallic shriek from deep within the engine's core. "What is that screeching?" Zhao Feng yelled, his warbeast rearing back in sudden distress. "Why is the pressure gauge red? Open the emergency relief hatch." It's stuck, young master. The valve is jammed," the lead artificer screamed in terror. Boom! A catastrophic explosion tore through the front ranks of the Iron Mountain siege line. The trapped thermal energy within the fire crystals detonated all at once, shattering the 3-ton bronze ram into thousands of jagged, whistling shrapnel pieces. A blazing shockwave swept across the gorge, blowing Zhao Feng off his mount into a puddle of mud and sending dozens of armored mercenaries flying like ragdolls into the rocky slopes. Grand Elder Murong-Ba tumbled backward down his carriage steps, his prized golden abacus snapping in half as black smoke filled the entire mountain pass. Qingxue stood frozen on the rampart, her sword hovering midair, her crystal blue eyes wide with sheer disbelief. Xiao Linger dropped her ledger, her jaw hanging open, as she looked from the burning wreckage below, back to the remaining pebbles in her basket. "1 stone," Linger squeaked. "You blew up a grade 3 siege engine with a Greek stone." "Not the stone," Lu Shen corrected mildly, picking up 4 more pebbles from the basket. "It was their own thermal stress that tore them apart.
I merely gave the pressure nowhere else to go. Looking down at the coughing, disoriented survivors in the smoke, Shen tossed the 4 remaining river stones into 4 specific cracks along the stone rampart floor. Each pebble settled into an ancient, dry channel where spiritual qi had ceased to flow 3 centuries ago. Array polarity inverted, Shen murmured, pressing his palm flat against the central battlement keystone. Heavenly blueprint, reconstruct the Azure Dragon Starlight barrier. A profound, resonant vibration surged up from the core of the mountain. The 4 humble river stones ignited with brilliant azure light, acting as perfect harmonic resonators that reconnected the dormant spiritual veins beneath the mountain peak. From the 4 corners of the valley, towering pillars of pure starlight erupted toward the heavens. The fragile, flickering mist barrier instantly reconstituted itself into a swirling, crystalline dome of deep celestial azure, overlaid with intricate golden geometric runes that hummed with the crushing pressure of an ancient Grade 5 immortal array. The ambient spiritual energy around the mountain surged tenfold within 3 breaths. Breaths of fresh mountain air infused with pure starlight swept across the courtyard, washing away the smell of soot and healing the minor chi burns on Qingxue's arms in seconds. Down in the mud, Zhao Feng struggled to his knees, coughing up soot and blood as he stared in absolute horror at the towering starlight dome above him.
A Grade 5 heaven tier array? Zhao Feng shrieked, his voice cracking with terror. Their ancestral formation was dead. How did a bankrupt Beggar Master reactivate an ancient grand barrier with river pebbles? Beside him, Murongba scrambled to his feet, trembling so violently that his official magistrate hat fell into the dirt. This pressure is equivalent to a peak core formation grandmaster's personal domain. The Azure Cloud Pavilion hasn't fallen. They were hiding an ancient grandmaster all along. Standing majestically above the glowing golden gate, his white scholar robes fluttering in the spiritual wind, Shen looked down upon the terrified mob with cold, commanding serenity. Young Master Zhao, Elder Murong, Shen's voice resonated like rolling thunder, projected effortlessly through the newly awakened array matrix. Your siege weapon has damaged my mountain road, causing severe environmental disruption to our ancestral grounds. The repair fee is exactly 50,000 low-grade spirit stones. Zhao Feng's face turned from purple to white. You dare demand compensation from my Iron Mountain sect? Shen explained that I do not demand, smoothly raising his hand. Above the canyon, the azure starlight condensed into 100 translucent spirit swords, hovering directly over the heads of the armored mercenaries. I invoice, pay within 3 breaths, or leave your armor and weapons here as initial collateral. Within 2 seconds, the entire Iron Mountain contingent dropped their weapons, threw 3 storage pouches of spirit stones into the gate deposit box, and dragged their screaming young master down the mountain path as fast as their legs could carry them. As the dust settled over the quiet valley, Xiaolinger collapsed onto her knees, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks as she counted the 50,000 spirit stones now sitting in their treasury pouch. We're saved! We're not being evicted! We can buy grain, we can buy herbs!
Qingxue sheathed her chipped longsword, walking up to Shen with a gaze full of reverence and unasked questions. Sectmaster, where did you learn such divine formation mastery? Even our founding ancestor could not activate the array without burning thousands of spirit stones. Shen looked at the golden schematics, continuing to map out the distant horizons in his field of view, a faint smile touching his lips.
Shen stated that, in a world where everyone relies on brute force, Qingxue, turning his gaze toward the endless expanse of the 9 continents, the one who holds the blueprint controls the world. Prepare the ledger, Lingar. Tomorrow we begin rebuilding our empire. The first night following the defense of the mountain gate brought an unfamiliar, reverent silence to the Azure Cloud Pavilion. For 3 years, the whistling mountain winds had howled through the ruined tiles of the ancestral compound like a perpetual funeral lament, carrying the icy drafts of the northern peaks directly into the bedrooms of the surviving disciples. Tonight, however, the newly inverted starlight array acted as a soundproof, thermal-regulating celestial membrane. The temperature within the courtyard hovered at a pristine 22 degrees, while the air tasted sweet, clean, and saturated with the revitalizing essence of concentrated starlight. In the quiet sanctuary of the Western study, Shen sat before a weathered rosewood desk, illuminated by the gentle golden radiance of the heavenly blueprint system. He leaned back in his high-backed chair, watching the translucent system logs scroll down his retinas with the steady precision of an operating system update. System Diagnostic Log, Cycle 01. Azure Dragon Starlight Barrier, operational at 48.6% nominal load.
Subterranean spirit vein recharge rate, plus 140 spirit units per hour. Internal sect atmospheric pressure, 101.3 kPa, standard Tao equilibrium. Host current cultivation realm, Qi gathering layer 7, structural meridian harmony. Available architectural processing nodes, 4 core coprocessors initialized.
Lu Shen allowed a satisfied breath to escape his lips. In his previous life, structural optimization was always constrained by material science. Concrete could only withstand so much compression, and steel alloy had strict fatigue thresholds. Here, in the 9 continents, however, spiritual qi behaved like an infinitely malleable, programmable fluid. It possessed kinetic inertia, thermodynamic potential, and spatial resonance, all of which obeyed fundamental laws of mathematics and physics that the native cultivators simply mistook for mystical fate. A light, hesitant knock sounded at the carved wooden doorframe. Lu Shen reported to enter, that allowing the golden hologram to fade into a discrete background overlay. The door swung open silently, revealing Qingxue. She had changed out of her battle-torn tunic into a clean, simple robe of moonlight white linen, though she still carried her frost-steel sword against her waist. Her silver hair fell in loose, shining waves across her shoulders, framing a face that had known too much hardship for her 19 years. Sect Master, the perimeter watch has completed the second rotation, Qingxue reported, bowing with formal discipline. The disciples from the Iron Mountain sect did not attempt a counterattack. The scouts left behind on the outer ridges retreated beyond the 3-mile border before twilight. Lu Shen stated that they won't return tonight, calmly, gesturing toward the empty armchair beside the hearth. Zhao Feng's confidence is shattered, and Elder Morong is a merchant at heart. A merchant who has just witnessed an unexpected catastrophic risk will spend at least 48 hours calculating potential liability before committing fresh capital to a fight. Sit down, Qingxue. Qingxue hesitated for half a second before taking a seat. Her posture remained straight as a spear, her hands resting formally upon her scabbard. Lu Shen observed her silently for several seconds. Through the diagnostic lens of the heavenly blueprint, her physical body was rendered as a translucent silhouette of crystal and silver conduits. Bright, flowing streams of frost qi coursed through her arms and legs, but when they converged near her collarbone and lower chest, the energy swirled into a turbulent, grinding vortex of dark indigo stress fractures. Lu Shen inquired whether, "How long have you been suffering from the midnight frost seizures?" bluntly. Qingxue's shoulder twitched, her crystal blue eyes widening in suppressed alarm. "Sect Master, you knew."
I don't just know. I can see the exact 24-centimeter blockage in your central conception vessel, Lu Shen explained, leaning forward and resting his elbows on the desk. Your family's ancestral Frost Cloud Sword Manual is fundamentally flawed. It instructs the practitioner to compress pure yin qi into the heart meridian to increase sword velocity. But in human hydraulic terms, you are pumping sub-zero fluid through narrow biological capillaries without installing an expansion valve. Every time you strike with full force, the cold qi crystallizes against your vessel walls. If you had fought Zhao Feng for another 10 minutes this morning, your heart meridian would have suffered irreversible cold necrosis.
Qingxue lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening around the cold silver hilt of her sword. Our clan was wiped out by demonic beasts when I was 9 years old. This sword manual was the only relic my father left behind. The previous sect master told me that pain is the necessary price of the sword path, that without suffering, the glacial Mu physique cannot be tempered. The previous sect master was a martial artist, not a biological engineer, Lu Shen retorted with a soft, gentle smile. Pain is not a badge of honor, Qingxue. Pain is an error warning that your internal engine is chewing itself to pieces. A properly engineered system produces maximum kinetic output with zero internal friction. Lu Shen stood up, walking around the desk until he stood directly beside her chair. Take off your outer coat, unseat your blade, and cross your legs on the meditation cushion.
Qingxue looked up at him. There was no lust or arrogance in Lu Shen's amber eyes, only the profound, clinical focus of a master surgeon looking at a masterpiece waiting to be restored. Trusting him completely, she removed her white linen coat, revealing a form-fitting undertunic, and sat cross-legged upon the silk cushion, laying her chipped longsword across her knees. Close your eyes and circulate your frost qi at 1/10 speed, Lu Shen commanded. When my qi enters your meridians, do not resist. Follow the golden conduit. Lu Shen extended his index and middle fingers, pressing them firmly against the Tantu acupoint just above her sternum. A gentle, warm surge of golden blueprint qi flowed from his fingertips into her chest. To Qingxue, the sensation was shocking. It did not feel like the crude, forceful spiritual pressure of senior cultivators, but rather like a delicate, glowing blueprint that laid out a brand new architectural roadmap inside her flesh. Wherever the golden light touched, the jagged indigo crystals of frozen qi began to dissolve into pure, frictionless celestial liquid. Lu Shen's fingers moved with surgical precision, tracing along her collarbone, down her right arm to the wrist, and down toward the dantian below her navel. Reroute the primary yin flow around the third rib junction, Lu Shen whispered in her ear. Bypass the pericardium entirely. Anchor your sword intent directly into the lower sea of qi. Qingxue drew in a sharp, shuddering breath. Inside her body, a sound like cracking glacier ice resonated through her soul. The cold energy that had tormented her for 7 years suddenly found a massive, unobstructed superhighway. It surged through her limbs with unprecedented speed, washing away every trace of exhaustion and igniting the dormant spiritual potential of her rare, pure glacial moon body. Crack! A blinding burst of azure and silver light erupted from her pores. A ring of delicate, crystalline frost flowers blossomed outward across the wooden floorboards, freezing the air within the study into a pocket of absolute zero. Hovering above her head, the phantom image of a pristine silver crescent moon materialized, radiating an ethereal, bone-chilling sword intent that vibrated the entire mountain. Meridian re-engineering complete. Target Glu Qingxue, glacial moon physique 100% harmonized. Cultivation breakthrough, advanced from foundation establishment layer 3 to peak layer 4. Combat output multiplier 4.8x efficiency. When the brilliant light subsided, Qingxue slowly opened her eyes. Her silver hair shimmered with faint starlight, and her crystal blue eyes were as clear and deep as an ancient frozen lake. The chipped frost steel sword on her lap resonated with a joyous high-pitched hum, completely coated in a layer of permanent, indestructible glacial frost. She looked at her hands, feeling the effortless, boundless power coursing through her veins, and then looked up at Lu Shen, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. "The cold, it doesn't hurt anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "It feels like the sword is breathing with me." Lu Shen stated that is how it should have always felt, warmly, offering her a hand to help her rise. "Rest tonight, senior sister. Tomorrow, our sect begins its industrial expansion, and I will need the sharpest sword in the southern province to protect our convoys." Glu Qingxue stood up, bowed deeply from the waist with a devotion that went deeper than life itself, and spoke in a clear, resonant tone. "Qingxue's sword is your blueprint, sect master. Wherever you point, I shall carve the path." When dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of amber and rose, the courtyard of the Azure Cloud Pavilion was already bustling with purposeful activity. Xiaolinger was up before the birds, happily sweeping the flagstones with a bamboo broom while humming a lively village tune. The 50,000 spirit stones recovered from Zhao Feng's brigade sat safely locked within the newly reinforced ancestral vault, providing the small sect with its first taste of financial stability in over a decade. Lu Shen emerged from the study carrying a freshly drawed leather roll under his arm. Joining Linger near the rear gardens, he observed the 5-acre expanse of cracked, barren earth with an analytical eye. "Good morning, senior brother," Linger greeted cheerfully, setting her broom against the garden gate. "I watered the 12 spirit dew grasses this morning, but the soil on the upper terrace is still too dry. If we want to cultivate grade 2 golden leaf ginseng and starlight orchids, we will need at least 30 cartloads of spirit spring clay from the provincial markets, and each cart costs over 50 medium spirit stones." Lu Shen explained that we don't need to buy spirit clay from the merchants, Linger, unrolling the leather schematic across a smooth granite boulder. "Soil fertility is simply a matter of mineral composition, moisture retention, and microclimate temperature gradients. Come look at this." Linger leaned over the blueprint, her hazel eyes widening as she examined the intricate golden diagrams. "What is this structure? It looks like a 3-story pagoda, but the walls are made of glass and wooden louvers." "This is a multi-tier modular spiritual greenhouse," Lu Shen explained, pointing to the layered cross-sections. "Instead of planting crops flat on the ground, where 80% of the ambient spiritual qi is blown away by the mountain winds, we build vertically. The ground floor utilizes geothermal heat channeled from the basalt bedrock to cultivate subterranean fungi and root herbs. The second floor features adjustable quartz prism skylights to focus morning sunlight for flowering plants. The top floor captures the condensation from the Azure Dragon's Starlight barrier, raining pure liquefied qi directly onto the seedlings twice every day." Linger's jaw dropped. A self-watering, temperature-controlled spirit pagoda? "Senior brother, could ordinary timber and river slate really hold such a divine array?" "If you understand the structural load vectors, ordinary pine timber is stronger than low-grade spirit iron," Lu Shen smiled. "Call Qingxue. We have 3 hours of carpentry ahead of us."
For the next 3 hours, the rear mountain echoed with the rhythmic sounds of construction, with Qingxue wielding her refined glacial moonsword intent to slice ancient pine logs into millimeter-perfect interlocking tongue-and-groove beams. There was no need for iron nails or glue. Shen directed the assembly like a master conductor. Disciples from the lower village who had come seeking shelter were quickly recruited to lay the foundation stones. Each timber beam slotted into place with satisfying airtight clicks, forming an elegant 3-story octagonal pagoda with transparent quartz panels that caught the morning light like a faceted diamond. Around the perimeter of the pagoda, Shen installed 12 carved slate drainage channels that connected directly to the underground cold spring vein he had tapped the previous day. When the final quartz roof tile was slotted into the apex, Shen stepped to the central irrigation node and inserted a small slate array plate. Click. Hum.
A soft golden-violet mist immediately blossomed within the greenhouse interior. The temperature stabilized at a perfect 26 degrees with 85% humidity. Outside, the harsh mountain wind howled against the quartz panels, but inside, the air was as calm, warm, and fragrant as an immortal garden in the heavenly realms. Xiaolinger carefully transplanted 50 withered herb seedlings into the tiered soil trays.
Within less than 20 breaths, an astonishing transformation occurred. The dry, yellowish stems absorbed the liquefied starlight mist, swelling with vibrant green life. Tiny white buds burst open along the branches of the spirit dewgrass, and 2 wild ginseng roots plunged deep into the mineral-rich soil, sprouting 4-leaf crowns that radiated a brilliant golden luminescence. "It worked! It actually worked!" Linger shrieked with pure joy, hugging Shen's arm and jumping up and down. The spiritual density inside the greenhouse is 8 times higher than outside. A 3-year maturation cycle will be compressed into just 2 weeks. We can produce 50 kilograms of grade 2 medicinal herbs every month, Shen stated that. And that is only our internal food and medicine supply, patting her head with a chuckle. Now we must attend to our primary export commodity. Returning to the main hall, Shen cleared the central conference table. Over the past 24 hours, his heavenly blueprint system had been continuously running optimization algorithms on portable defensive formations. Traditional formation masters in the 9 continents viewed arrays as permanent, immovable structures that took months to engrave onto mountain cliffs or fortress walls. Talismans existed as portable alternatives, but paper talismans were fragile, single-use, and notoriously unstable during intense combat. Shen had designed an entirely new category of Dao artifact, the modular slate array plate. Using flat slabs of common river slate cleaved from the canyon bed, Shen used a simple tungsten-tipped steel chisel to etch microscopic 3-dimensional rune conduits into the stone. Because the heavenly blueprint system calculated the precise molecular density of the slate, Shen was able to route the spiritual energy through 3 internal reflective layers within the rock itself, completely eliminating energy leakage. Screech! Screech! In less than 2 hours, Shen had personally fabricated 45 modular Starlight defense plates. Each plate was roughly the size of a modern tablet computer, lightweight, cool to the touch, and etched with an elegant geometric array of concentric gold-filled runes. When activated with a single drop of blood or a wisp of basic chi, the slate plate would project a 3-meter hexagonal starlight barrier capable of withstanding 3 direct strikes from a Foundation establishment cultivator or 50 strikes from mundane heavy ballistas. Most importantly, after absorbing damage, the plate would not shatter. It would simply enter a 10-minute recharge cycle, absorbing ambient environmental chi to restore its defensive barrier automatically. A reusable, portable, instant deployment fortress in the palm of your hand, Shen admired his handiwork as he stacked the 45 plates into 2 polished cedar trunks. Total production cost per unit, 0.2 spirit stones. Estimated wholesale value in the provincial capital, at least 2,000 medium stones each. Qingxue walked into the hall, carrying 2 freshly oiled leather scabbards and travel cloaks. The 2-horse carriage is prepared at the gate, Sect Master. The mountain route to Cloud Mist City is 80 miles. If we leave now, we will reach the city gates before the afternoon market closes.
Shen stated that, "Then let us make haste, donning a clean scholar's cloak of deep azure silk with embroidered gold compass motifs. Linger, you hold the authority token to the mountain array. If anyone approaches the gates while we are away, activate the perimeter mist and release the gravity notes." "Understood, senior brother," Linger saluted proudly, holding the jade token tightly against her chest. "Safe travels." With a crack of the carriage whip, the 2-horse cart rumbled through the Azure Starlight Gate, descending the winding mountain path toward the vast commercial metropolis of Cloud Mist City.
Following the reinforcement of the mountain gates and the first successful batch of modular array plates, Shen realized that surface resources alone would not sustain a protracted war against the combined five-sect alliance. According to the foundational records of the Azure Cloud Pavilion, founding Master Xuan'er had not constructed the sect upon ordinary rock. The mountain rested directly above the Subterranean Dragon Labyrinth, an ancient subterranean geological fault system, rich in primal starlight ore and ancient Dao ley lines. Equipped with 3 newly fabricated Starlight mining lanterns and accompanied by Qingxue, Shen led an exploration expedition into the deepest vertical shafts beneath the ancestral forge. The air within the subterranean depths grew progressively colder, carrying the sharp metallic tang of unrefined spirit veins. Through the heavenly blueprint system, the surrounding solid rock was rendered transparent, exposing a massive 3-dimensional network of glowing crimson and azure energy arteries pulsing thousands of feet beneath the earth. "Sect Master, the temperature is dropping rapidly," Qingxue warned, her hand resting on the hilt of her frost steel blade, as her breath formed white clouds in the lantern light. "The rock walls here are encrusted with 1,000-year glacial basalt. In traditional sect history, 3 expeditionary elders entered this chasm 400 years ago and were frozen into ice statues by subterranean frost spirits." Those elders were frozen because they attempted to forcefully extract the spirit ore using brute heat-based techniques, Shen explained, kneeling beside a jagged outcropping of dark blue crystal. Glacial basalt possesses a negative thermal coefficient. When you strike it with fire chi, it triggers an endothermic chain reaction, instantly absorbing all ambient heat from the surrounding air. In modern engineering terms, they effectively built a self-detonating cryogenic freezer. Shen retrieved a small tuning chisel forged from cold star iron. Guided by the system's harmonic stress calculations, he tapped 3 precise microfissures along the crystalline cleavage plane. Ding, ding, ding. Without producing a single spark or releasing a single wave of freezing mist, the massive outcropping of 1,000-year glacial basalt cleaved apart smoothly like sliced jade, revealing a hidden subterranean cavern glowing with rivers of liquid starlight. At the center of the cavern rested an ancient stone altar, surrounded by 8 interlocking gears of deep-sea void bronze, the ancestral Ley-Line stabilizer, constructed by Xuan'er 12 centuries ago. Ancient mechanism identified, subterranean Ley-Line stabilizer. Status, 85% efficiency loss due to silt accumulation in primary fluid hydraulic loops. Optimization plan, purge subterranean silt channels and replace decayed leather gaskets with cold star spirit seals. For 6 hours, Shen and Qingxue worked in the glowing tavern. Using her refined glacial moon sword intent, Qingxue carved perfectly fitted spirit seals from discarded cold star alloy, while Shen manually realigned the bronze hydraulic conduits. When the final valve was turned, the ancient stone altar shuddered with a deep, majestic hum. The rivers of liquid starlight surged into the newly cleared channels, rushing upward through the mountain's bedrock like a revived circulatory system. Above ground, across the entire 20-square-mile domain of Azure Cloud Mountain, the concentration of ambient heaven and earth chi doubled in a single instant. Withered pine trees on the northern cliffs sprouted fresh emerald needles, and the bubbling cold springs in the lower valley turned into sweet, fragrant spirit dew that could heal internal wounds with a single sip. A 70% increase in continuous power generation, Shen noted with satisfaction, wiping grease from his hands with a clean linen cloth. "Our automated ballistas can now fire continuously for 48 hours without depleting the mountain core." While the defensive and metallurgical divisions under Master Han Chong expanded rapidly, Xiaolinger was pioneering a revolution of her own in the agricultural and alchemical sectors. In traditional cultivation society, pill refinement was an exclusive, mystified art monopolized by ancient alchemist guilds. A single grade 3 foundation solidifying pill required rare 300-year herbs, cost hundreds of spirit stones, and had a 50% failure rate in the furnace, resulting in toxic alchemical slag that poisoned the environment. Xiaolinger, however, had completely abandoned traditional iron cauldron boiling under Shen's technical guidance. Inside the 3rd floor of the multi-tier modular greenhouse, Linger stood before a sparkling laboratory setup constructed entirely from quartz tubing, condensing coils, and temperature-controlled spirit fluid reservoirs, the continuous flow hydroponic alchemical extractor.
"Senior brother, look at this batch!" Linger beamed with pride, holding up a glass vial filled with a crystal-clear, glowing golden liquid that radiated an intoxicating herbal aroma. "Instead of burning the whole ginseng root in a charcoal furnace, your low-temperature vacuum extraction blueprint isolated 99.4% of the active medicinal alkaloids. A single stalk of 30-year golden leaf ginseng produced 10 vials of pure liquid Dao essence." Shen took the vial, allowing the heavenly blueprint system to analyze its molecular composition. Chemical composition analysis complete, 99.6% purity. Toxicity and slag content, 0.00%. Efficacy equivalent to a top-grade Grade 3 foundation solidifying pill. Production cycle, 14 minutes per batch. Automated continuous flow.
In traditional alchemy, 80% of the active medicinal compounds are destroyed by uncontrolled furnace flames, Lu Shen explained, smiling as he inspected the rows of glowing quartz vials. By extracting the essence at 38 degrees under vacuum pressure, we achieve near-perfect pharmacological purity with zero pill toxicity. Within 3 days, Xiaoling and her team of 10 apprentice herbalists produced 500 vials of liquid Dao essence.
When distributed to the newly recruited disciples of the Azure Cloud Mountain Vanguard, the results were astounding. Over 80 novice cultivators broke through their bottleneck barriers in a single night without suffering a single instance of meridian turbulence or chi deviation. The overall combat power of the sect's infantry doubled in less than a week, creating a disciplined, highly unified core of loyal martial artists who viewed Lu Shen as an immortal deity of boundless wisdom.
The road descending from the Azure Cloud Mountain wound through mist-shrouded pine forests, crossing jagged granite gorges, before opening onto the vast cobblestone expanse of the Cloud Mist Imperial Highway. Traveling in a simple carriage constructed from polished cedar and reinforced with subtle internal iron braces, Lu Shen and Qingxue arrived at the southern outskirts of Cloud Mist City just as the midday bell tolled across the plains.
Cloud Mist City was the economic and political epicenter of the southern province, a colossal metropolis enclosed by towering 100-foot granite walls, bristling with defensive ballistas and bustling with thousands of rogue cultivators, merchant caravans, and sect emissaries from across the continent. Above the city's central district floated the 3 grand pavilions of the sovereign merchant guilds, suspended in midair by massive anti-gravity formation arrays that cast vast, shifting shadows over the crowded market squares below. As their modest carriage approached the eastern commercial checkpoint, a familiar, arrogant sneer greeted them from the fortified guard station. Standing beside the gate magistrate was the 5th elder of the Iron Mountain sect, Elder Tia Gang, a hulking brute with bronze skin, scarred forearms, and a massive 300-pound warhammer strapped across his broad back. "Halt, right there," Tia Gang barked, stepping directly into the path of their carriage and slamming the butt of his warhammer into the cobblestones with a deafening crack that sent dust flying into the horse's nostrils. By order of the 5 Alliances Merchant Council, all destitute sects ranked below Tier 5 must submit to a comprehensive asset inspection and cargo quarantine before entering the commercial district. Lu Shen, where did a bankrupt pauper like you find the silver for carriage fare? Behind him, a dozen Iron Mountain enforcers in bronze armor drew their heavy broadswords, encircling the carriage with predatory grins. News of Zhao Feng's embarrassing defeat at the Mountain Gate had not yet reached the city gates, and Tai Gang clearly believed he could bully the young sect master with complete impunity. Qingxue's hand rested on the pommel of her frost steel sword, her knuckles whitening as cold mist seeped from her scabbard. Her crystal blue eyes turned sharp as daggers. "Elder Tai, the Southern Province Covenant guarantees free passage to all recognized sect masters. You have no legal jurisdiction to block our carriage or demand cargo inspection."
Jurisdiction? Tai Gang laughed mockingly, spitting a wad of red tobacco onto the carriage wheel. In Cloud Mist City, the Iron Mountain sect is the jurisdiction. Your father owes 50,000 spirit stones to our treasury. Until that debt is settled in blood or land, every stick of wood on your mountain belongs to us. Hand over your cargo for inspection, or turn this wooden cart around and crawl back to your collapsing peak on all fours.
Sitting calmly inside the carriage, Lu Shen did not flinch. He pushed open the wooden door and stepped down onto the cobblestones with effortless grace. His amber eyes flared with golden geometry as the heavenly blueprint interface scanned Elder Tai Gang and his warhammer in real time. Target, Elder Tai Gang. Cultivation, Peak Foundation Establishment, Brute Force Earth Affinity. Primary weapon, Earth-splitting warhammer, Grade 2, low quality. Structural analysis, frame is cast from unrefined volcanic slag with 42% porosity at the neck junction. Internal T circulation suffers from severe turbulence along the Yangming Meridian. Tactical solution, point load stress fracture at the 14-centimeter mark beneath the hammerhead. Vulnerability to kinetic shear, 100%. Lu Shen smoothed the sleeves of his Azure Scholar robes and looked directly into the hulking elder's bloodshot eyes.
Lu Shen stated that Elder Tai, I advise you to step aside. Mildly, his tone as pleasant as a customer addressing a shop clerk. Not only because you are obstructing official sect commerce, but because your warhammer is 3 strikes away from suffering complete structural disintegration. If you channel your earth-splitting chi one more time, the rebound force will shatter both of your forearms. A chorus of raucous laughter erupted from the Iron Mountain enforcers and the gathered spectators along the road.
Taigeng demanded that my earth-splitting hammer was forged by the master blacksmith of the Southern Forge using 300 pounds of molten ironwood and volcanic basalt, in fury, his face turning dark crimson. You dare insult my weapon, you worthless brat. I'll crush your skull and turn this carriage into kindling. Roaring with the full fury of a peak foundation establishment expert, Taigeng hoisted his massive warhammer high above his head with both hands. Thick, yellow earth attribute chi surged into the bronze head, causing the ground beneath his boots to buckle and crack as he aimed a crushing, earth-shattering strike straight down toward Lu Shen's shoulder. Qingxue moved to draw her blade, but Lu Shen raised 2 fingers to hold her back.
Without retreating an inch, Lu Shen casually extended a single copper hairpin he had picked up from the carriage dashboard, waiting for the hammer to reach its apex of kinetic acceleration, the exact microsecond where the internal stress wave reached the porous junction point. Lu Shen lightly tapped the copper pin against the side of the bronze hammerhead. Ting! The sound was as delicate as a drop of water falling into a still pond. For half a second, the yellow earth chi froze in midair. Crack! A spiderweb of glowing fracture lines exploded across the 300-pound bronze hammerhead. In an instant, the massive weapon shattered into hundreds of blunt metallic shards, spraying backward directly into Taigeng's chest and face. The violent spiritual backlash of his own earth-splitting chi rebounded through his arms, snapping his bronze wrist guards like twigs and throwing the 8-foot brute skidding 30 paces across the stone plaza before collapsing into a groaning heap of broken armor and bruises. The entire eastern gate went dead silent. The dozen Iron Mountain enforcers froze, their swords shaking in their hands, staring at their unconscious elder, and then back at the slender young scholar who hadn't even ruffled his silk collar.
Load-bearing failure due to excessive casting porosity, Lu Shen noted aloud, tossing the bent copper hairpin onto Taigeng's unconscious chest. A tragic, entirely preventable engineering disaster. Qingxue, drive the carriage through. We have an appointment at the Mystic Treasure Pavilion. Without another word, the carriage rolled smoothly past the petrified gate guards and entered the grand thoroughfare of Cloud Mist City.
10 minutes later, their carriage pulled up in front of the most opulent structure in the city, the Mystic Treasure Pavilion. Rising 9 stories into the clouds with eaves carved from luminescent white jade and banners of woven celestial silk, the pavilion catered exclusively to high-tier sects, imperial envoys, and legendary cultivation clans from across the 9 continents. Stepping into the grand reception hall, Lu Shen requested an audience with the chief appraiser. The front desk attendant, taking note of their simple attire and lack of golden sect badges, was about to offer a dismissive referral to the outdoor flea market when the grand silk curtain behind the counter parted. Stepping into the hall was a woman of breathtaking elegance. Draped in an exquisite gown of midnight purple silk embroidered with silver lotus patterns, she possessed dark, calculating eyes that held the wisdom of a master merchant and the sharp aura of an early core formation cultivator. This was Lady Yanyue, the renowned chief appraiser and regional director of the Mystic Treasure Pavilion. Lady Yanyue inquired, "What brings the new master of the Azure Cloud Pavilion to my humble hall?" Her voice rich and melodic, carrying a hint of amused curiosity. "I heard rumors that your ancestral mountain was surrounded by debt collectors this morning, yet here you stand in my pavilion, with pristine robes and no sign of dust." Lu Shen explained that rumors in this province travel slower than bad news, Lady Yan, with a respectful nod. "The debt has been settled. Today, I come not to borrow, but to offer the Mystic Treasure Pavilion a trading partnership that will redefine the defense market of the southern province." Lady Yanyue arched a delicate eyebrow, gesturing toward a private VIP consultation chamber on the 3rd floor. "A bold claim for a young man whose sect treasury was reported empty yesterday. Please, let us see what treasures the Azure Cloud Pavilion has to offer." Seated around a table of polished spirit sandalwood, Lu Shen opened the smaller wooden trunk, revealing 20 of the modular slate array plates etched with intricate golden rune conduits. Lady Yanyue leaned forward, her sharp eyes scanning the rough gray stones. A soft, skeptical smile touched her lips. "River slate? Sectmaster Lu, our pavilion deals in grade 4 beast-hide talismans and 1,000-year-cold jade seals. Ordinary riverstone lacks the spiritual density to hold a high-tier formation for more than 3 minutes. Traditional formation theory dictates that high-density jade is required because conventional rune carvers lose 70% of their energy to spatial leakage," Lu Shen explained smoothly, picking up one of the slate plates. "Nye designs eliminate harmonic turbulence through geometric optimization. Would Lady Yan permit a particle demonstration?" Lady Yan explained that, "Be my guest," gesturing toward the reinforced spirit testing cage in the corner of the room, a chamber lined with heavy black iron plates designed to withstand attacks from golden core experts. Lu Shen walked to the center of the room, placed the slate plate on the floor, and signaled Qingxue, directing Qingxue to unleash your full glacial moon stored intent at that plate, Lu Shen inflicted. Lady Yanyue's eyes narrowed slightly. She could clearly sense that Qingxue was a peak foundation established swordswoman whose newly awakened sword intent carried the chilling sharpness of an impending golden core breakthrough. To strike an unpowered slab of riverstone with such force would surely obliterate the artifact into dust. Qingxue drew her frost steel blade, her crystal blue eyes narrowing as a crescent wave of blinding azure frost surged from the tip of her sword, tearing through the air with the roar of a glacial avalanche. Just as the sword wave reached within 2 inches of the floor, Lu Shen dropped a single speck of spiritual qi onto the slate plate. Buzz! A blinding flash of hexagonal azure starlight erupted from the stone slab. A solid geometric energy barrier materialized instantly, locking into the surrounding air with mathematical perfection. Boom! The devastating frost sword wave slammed into the hexagonal barrier with tremendous force. Sparks of pure starlight and crystalline ice sprayed across the room, yet the hexagonal shield did not tremble by a fraction of a millimeter. The kinetic energy of the attack was instantly absorbed, channeled through the slate's microscopic conduits, and dissipated harmlessly into the room's ambient qi. When the light faded, the slate plate sat upon the floor completely unblemished, glowing with a soft, steady hum.
Lady Yanya rose from her chair, her composure completely shattered as she stared at the glowing stone slab with wide, disbelieving eyes. Instant deployment, 0 preparation time, and 0 spiritual exhaustion from the user? Lady Yan gasped, picking up the plate with trembling manicured hands. An ordinary mortal could activate this barrier and survive a direct strike from a Foundation establishment assassin? How is this possible on common river slate? Lu Shen stated that because true formation mastery lies not in the cost of the material, but in the efficiency of the blueprint, smiling calmly across the table. I have 45 of these plates in my carriage. Each one provides 3 full deployments of Grade 3 defensive shielding. How much would the major trading caravans and mercenary guilds pay for portable, instant fortress protection during their deep wilderness expeditions? Lady Yanya took a deep breath, her merchant instincts firing at maximum speed. In a world fraught with demonic beasts, rogue bandits, and treacherous dungeon ruins, a reliable, portable defense artifact was worth more than life itself. Lady Yan stated that the standard Grade 3 defensive talisman sells for 800 spirit stones and can only be used once by high-level cultivators, her voice trembling with excitement. A modular plate that can be used 3 times by anyone, regardless of cultivation level. On the open auction floor, each plate will easily fetch 3,000 to 4,000 medium-grade spirit stones.
Then let us put 20 of them on today's grand auction, Lu Shen agreed, leaning back in his chair, and the remaining 25 will be sold exclusively through the Mystic Treasure Pavilion, under the condition that Azure Cloud Pavilion receives priority access to all raw construction materials, ancient bluepoint fragments, and high-grade spirit ores entering your warehouses. Lady Yanyue smiled radiantly, extending a slender jade-white hand to seal the agreement. Sect Master Lu, you are not merely an architect. You are a miracle worker. Let us go to the Grand Auction Hall. The Southern Continent is about to discover your name. News of the Azure Cloud Pavilion's miracle medicines and invincible defense plates soon reached the neighboring territories, triggering intense anxiety among the 7 mountain trading guilds of the southern province.
For over a century, the 7 guilds had maintained a ruthless monopoly over all mineral transport, food distribution, and talisman trade across the southern trade corridors. Led by Guildmaster Bayan of the Golden Tiger Syndicate, a greedy, ruthless merchant lord backed by 3 rogue Golden Core cultivators, the Guild Council convened an emergency session in the border city of Iron Gate Pass. Bayan demanded that the Azure Cloud Pavilion is selling Grade 3 defense plates for 1/10 of our market price, slamming his bejeweled fist onto the mahogany council table. Their liquid medicine has driven the price of traditional alchemical pills down by 70% in Cloud Mist City. If this beggar sect continues their industrial output, our 7 guilds will be bankrupt before the winter solstice. Then we establish a total continental blockade, proposed Elder Wu of the Black River Syndicate, his calculating eyes narrowing into slits. We buy up all the spirit iron transport beasts in the province, bribe the imperial toll magistrates to levy a 500% export tariff on all goods stamped with the Azure Cloud seal, and hire the Nightblade Mercenary Legion to intercept their caravans.
Within 48 hours, the 7 guilds executed their economic blockade. Trade caravans heading toward Azure Cloud Mountain were halted at the border toll gates. Food shipments were seized under fabricated quarantine claims, and mercenary scouts patrolled the mountain roads to prevent any raw materials from entering the valley. When Schaulinger received the reports of the blockade, she rushed into the study in tears. "Senior brother, the 7 guilds have cut off our grain imports and frozen all our iron ore shipments at Iron Gate Pass. Our warehouse only has enough food for 2 weeks. Shen did not look up from his drafting table, calmly continuing to ink a complex geometric schematic of interlocking copper conduits. Shen stated that an economic blockade is merely a friction choke point on a physical supply line, smoothly setting his ink brush aside. When an adversary builds a dam across a river, an amateur tries to smash the dam with brute force. An engineer simply builds an aqueduct over their heads. Shen rolled up his schematic and walked to the high observation platform overlooking the southern mountain pass. "Master Han Chong," Shen called out. "Here, sect master," the blacksmith answered, his cold star mechanical arm gleaming in the sunlight. "Prepare the 4 heavy transport sky barges we retrofitted yesterday," Shen commanded. "Engage the pneumatic anti-gravity lift coils. We are opening the Azure Cloud aerial trade corridor." An hour later, 4 colossal 100-foot cargo barges rose vertically into the sky, bypassing the road blockades, toll gates, and mercenary ambushes at an altitude of 10,000 feet. Flying directly over the stunned toll magistrates and furious guild enforcers at Iron Gate Pass, the Azure Cloud fleet landed directly in the center of the provincial capital's Grand Bazaar, delivering 20 tons of fresh greenhouse grain, 500 vials of liquid Dao essence, and 200 modular array plates straight to Lady Yanyue's auction warehouses. The 7 guilds blockade collapsed in a single afternoon. Realizing that overland roads were completely obsolete in the face of aerial transport, 5 of the 7 merchant syndicates broke away from Bayan's coalition, arriving at the foot of Azure Cloud Mountain with gift carts filled with gold and spirit jade, begging to sign long-term supply contracts with Shen's engineering union. The grand auction at the Mystic Treasure Pavilion exceeded even Lady Yanwei's wildest projections. When the first lot of 10 modular Starlight defense plates was presented on the velvet auction pedestal, a fierce bidding war erupted between the Southern Caravan Guild, the Sky-Soaring Sword Sect, and several elite mercenary captains. By the time the auction hammer struck the final lot, the 20 modular plates had commanded an astonishing total sum of 380,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, in exchange for exclusive distribution rights for the next 3 quarters, Lady Yanwei presented Shen with a rare ancient spatial storage ring containing 10 tons of refined cold star iron, 500 pounds of deep void gold, 3 cartloads of spirit spring jade, and a tattered, half-decayed animal skin scroll recovered from an ancient sky ruin, an unreadable fragment known in the merchant records as the Celestial Void Core Diagram. When the carriage returned to the Azure Cloud Mountain at dusk, the cart was loaded not with empty promises, but with mountains of premium construction materials that made Xiaoling rub her eyes repeatedly in absolute bewilderment. 380,000 medium stones? Ling cried out, clutching a leather pouch brimming with glowing lavender-tinted crystals. "Senior brother, with this much wealth, we could buy 3 mountain ranges and hire a legion of core formation mercenaries to protect our gate."
Shen explained that hiring mercenaries only buys temporary loyalty, Linger, as he supervised the unloading of the cold star iron in the open courtyard. True sovereignty is built upon our own independent industrial infrastructure. Tomorrow, we begin the comprehensive physical transformation of Azure Cloud Mountain. That night, beneath the luminous canopy of the Azure Dragon Starlight array, Shen unrolled the ancient animal skin scroll on his study desk. As his fingertips brushed the brittle parchment, a radiant golden pulse flashed across his retinas. Ding! Ancient relic fragment detected. Schematic of the pre-Dao era celestial warship Skypiercer. Analyzing corrupted data blocks. Reconstruction efficiency 74.2%. Core discovery. Beneath the central ancestral hall of Azure Cloud Pavilion lies the dormant subterranean void core, constructed 1,200 years ago by founding Master Xuanye. Upgrade condition met. Heavenly blueprint system advancing to Tier 2. Automated kinematics and void resonance. System processing power upgraded. 1,200 flops. Shen rose from his desk, walking toward the rear of the ancestral hall, where a massive, dust-covered stone relief of a coiled dragon was carved into the granite cliff face. Placing his palm upon the dragon's right eye, Shen channeled the refined starlight frequency calculated by his upgraded system. Click. With a deep, grinding shudder that shook the mountain foundations, the ancient stone relief parted down the middle, revealing a hidden, descending staircase paved with luminescent void slate. Accompanied by Qingxue, whose drawn sword radiated a vigilant icy glow, Shen descended 300 paces into the subterranean belly of the mountain.
What opened before them was a colossal cavern the size of a modern aircraft hangar. Floating at the center of the subterranean abyss was a spherical, multi-ringed bronze mechanism the size of a 3-story mansion, the Subterranean Void Core. Though dormant and covered in centuries of cobwebs, the massive machine's inner gears were forged from indestructible void gold, connected to the primary spiritual ley lines of the entire mountain range.
Our founding ancestor did not build this sect to be a simple training academy, Lu Shen murmured in awe, his system rendering the full mechanical blueprint of the subterranean chamber. The entire Azure Cloud Mountain was designed as a mobile planetary fortress. It only stopped functioning because the primary kinetic gear shaft was displaced by 3 centimeters during an ancient seismic shift. With the heavenly blueprint system guiding every motion, Lu Shen used a hydraulic lever and 50 pounds of freshly acquired cold star iron to realign the primary gear shaft. Clunk.
A deep, harmonic pulse rippled through the bedrock. The multi-ringed bronze core began to rotate smoothly, emitting a low, majestic hum that reconnected the deepest spiritual veins of the earth directly to the mountain's surface. Instantly, the concentration of ambient spiritual qi within the sect compound doubled, transforming the air into a shimmering mist of liquefied Tao energy. Subterranean Void Core successfully re-engaged. Mountain foundation integrity 100%. Automated defense grid power allocation optimal. Returning to the surface with renewed purpose, Lu Shen spent the next 3 days implementing Phase 2 of his grand master plan, the Iron Fortress Defense Initiative. Using the Cold Star Iron and Deep Void Gold, Lu Shen redesigned the 4 main watchtowers of the mountain perimeter into automated celestial defense bastions. Instead of relying on tired disciple guards to fire bows, Lu Shen installed 4 colossal heavy ballista arrays powered directly by the Subterranean Void Core. Each ballista was equipped with a computerized optical targeting array that utilized the Heavenly Blueprint spatial calculation grid. Capable of firing 12-foot cold star iron spears at supersonic speeds, these automated turrets could independently lock on to any hostile cultivator within a 20-kilometer radius and loose a devastating barrage of anti-armor kinetic bolts without requiring a single drop of human spiritual effort. Word of the Azure Cloud Pavilion's sudden resurgence, high-paying construction bounties, and unhindered access to Grade 2 cultivation greenhouses spread like wildfire through the lower valley settlements. Within a week, dozens of impoverished rogue cultivators, disgraced blacksmith apprentices, and wandering herbalists gathered at the foot of the mountain, seeking entry. Lu Shen did not turn them away. Instead of subjecting them to traditional, archaic bone testing rituals, Lu Shen sat them before a specialized diagnostic array plate he had constructed. Within 30 seconds, the system mapped their innate mechanical aptitudes, spiritual affinities, and structural reasoning skills, assigning each applicant to the newly established Tao Engineering Guild, the Agricultural Cultivation Division, or the Mountain Vanguard Battalion. Among the new recruits was Master Han Chong, a former master blacksmith whose hands had been crippled by an explosion at the Iron Mountain Forges 5 years prior. Impoverished and unable to hold a hammer, he had been reduced to begging in the outskirts. Standing before the crippled blacksmith, Lu Shen did not offer pity. Instead, he presented a mechanical prosthetic arm crafted from cold star iron and responsive spirit fluid tendons, a masterpiece of biomechanical Tao engineering designed by the Heavenly Blueprint system. "Put it on, Master Han," Lu Shen instructed gently. With trembling hands, the old blacksmith strapped the silver-black prosthetic to his stump. As the spirit fluid conduits bonded with his nervous system, the mechanical fingers flexed with flawless precision, capable of exerting 10 times the grip strength of an ordinary cultivator. Tears filled the old blacksmith's eyes as he fell to his knees, pressing his forehead against the stone floor. "Sect Master has restored my life and my craft. From this day forward, every drop of sweat in my forge belongs to the Azure Cloud Pavilion."
Stand up, Master Han, Lu Shen smiled, lifting him up by the shoulders. "We have 400 heavy siege ballistas, 50,000 modular armor plates, and an entire mountain fleet to build. Let the fires of the Azure Forge never go cold." With the southern continent's economic and political landscape completely restructured under the Azure Cloud Engineering Union, Lu Shen initiated Phase 4 of his master infrastructure plan, the Planetary Void Gateway Network. Recognizing that physical flight, while vastly superior to overland carts, still required hours of travel time across continental distances, Lu Shen utilized the unlocked Tier 3 blueprint capabilities to reverse engineer ancient spatial teleportation mathematics. Traditional teleportation gates in the 9 continents were colossal, multi-million stone ancient structures that were notoriously unstable and prone to spatial tears during planetary alignment shifts. Lu Shen, however, approached spatial engineering from the perspective of quantum harmonic resonance. Using 50 pounds of deep void gold,
12 polished cold star focusing rings, and a series of harmonic quartz oscillators, Shen constructed the first modular short-range void gate in the courtyard of the Azure Cloud Pavilion, paired with a matching receiver gate installed inside the VIP sanctum of the Mystic Treasure Pavilion in Cloud Mist City. When the spatial power was engaged, a tranquil, mirror-like doorway of swirling golden starlight opened between the two distant locations. Qingxue stepped through the doorway in Azure Cloud Mountain and instantly materialized inside Lady Yanyu's office 80 miles away with zero spatial turbulence, zero nausea, and zero energy loss.
Instantaneous continental transit? Powered by mere 10 spirit stones per jump? Lady Yanyue gasped, nearly spilling her tea as she touched the shimmering starlight archway. Sect Master Lu, this single invention will render all Imperial courier services, caravan roads, and border fortresses completely obsolete. This is only the prototype, Lu Shen smiled, stepping through the portal to stand beside her. Once the Sky Piercer is fully launched, we will deploy these gateways across every major province on the continent. The 9 continents will no longer be a fragmented patchwork of isolated kingdoms. It will become a unified, hyper-connected Dao empire.
In the subterranean war room of the Iron Mountain sect, 40 miles north of Azure Cloud Mountain, Patriarch Zhao Tanshan sat upon an iron throne carved from volcanic basalt. He was a towering, broad-shouldered tyrant with scars crisscrossing his bearded face, radiating the oppressive, suffocating spiritual pressure of a late Golden Core Realm overlord. Before him knelt his son, Zhao Feng, alongside the bandaged and broken Elder Tai Gong.
Useless trash! Zhao Tianshan's voice boomed like rolling thunder, causing the torches along the dungeon walls to flicker violently. You let a 22-year-old beggar humiliate our elders, shatter our siege engines, and sell formation plates right under our noses in Cloud Mist City. The entire southern province is laughing at our Iron Mountain sect. Father, please hear me, Zhao Feng begged, trembling on the cold floor. Lu Shen is not using normal martial techniques. He can see the flaws in our weapons with a single glance, and their mountain barrier has been reactivated into an ancient Grade 5 array that even our siege engines cannot scratch. Then we will not strike their mountain directly, a sinister, raspy voice hissed from the shadows behind the throne.
Stepping out from the darkness was Commander Sheisha, the feared Grand Inquisitor of the Blood Shadow Valley, a notorious assassin syndicate specializing in corrosive blood poison formations, stealth illusions, and clandestine sect liquidations. Draped in crimson hooded robes, his skin was sickly pale, and 2 curved blood daggers hovered silently around his wrists. The Azure Cloud Pavilion has recently dispatched a convoy toward the Crimson Gorge to claim the abandoned Spirit Iron Mine on the border, Commander Sheisha murmured, a cruel sneer curling his thin lips. My Blood Shadow assassins have already laid a 9-lock blood poison array across the narrow canyon. When Lu Shen and his vanguard enter the gorge, we will dissolve their flesh into acid, seize their formation blueprints, and leave their bones for the mountain vultures.
Good, Zhao Tianshan growled, slamming his fist onto the iron armrest. Bring me Lu Shen's head and the blueprint scrolls. I will see to it that the Azure Cloud name is erased from history before the next full moon. Meanwhile, unaware of the trap closing around the borderlands, Lu Shen led a mobile vanguard of 20 newly equipped Azure Cloud disciples aboard 3 heavy transport carriages, reinforced with cold star iron plating. Qingxue rode at the head of the formation atop a white frost steed, her silver-white hair catching the morning sun, her frost steel blade humming with eager anticipation. The Crimson Gorge was a desolate, jagged canyon, flanked by sheer red sandstone cliffs that soared hundreds of feet into the sky. It was the sole overland trade route connecting the Azure Cloud territory to the mineral-rich border veins.
As their convoy entered the narrowest pass of the gorge, a sudden, eerie silence descended over the canyon. The chirping of birds and the rustling of mountain winds vanished completely, replaced by a thick, metallic stench of copper and rotting iron. Halt, Qingxue called out, raising her hand. Her crystal blue eyes narrowed as she scanned the crimson cliffs above. The air is stagnant. There is spiritual poison in the fog. Just as her warning left her lips, the red cliffs on both sides erupted with blinding crimson light. Buzz. Dozens of bloody pillars of light shot up from the rocky slopes, intertwining in midair to form a colossal crimson cage that sealed the front and rear exits of the canyon. From the scarlet mist emerged 60 hooded assassins in blood-soaked armor, led by Commander Shusha, who floated 10 feet above the gorge with his twin blood daggers spinning in lethal circles.
Welcome to your tomb, Sect Master Lu. Shueisha's mocking voice echoed through the canyon, dripping with sadistic malice.
The 9-lock blood poison ray has sealed this airspace. Within 3 minutes, the acidic blood mist will corrode your spiritual chi, melt your armor, and reduce your precious disciples into puddles of red sludge. Panic rippled through the young disciples in the carriages, but Lu Shen stepped out from the lead transport with effortless composure. His amber eyes flared with radiant golden somatics as the heavenly blueprint system initiated a full-spectrum structural deconstruction of the enemy's ambush formation. Ding! Hostile array detected. 9-lock blood poison formation. Grade 4 corrosive trapping matrix. Scanning energy nodes. Spatial flow mapped. Structural vulnerability identified. The array relies on 9 external blood sacrifice flags anchored into the sandstone cliffs. Node 3, Northwest Ridge, and Node 7, Southeast Crevice, suffer from severe kinetic imbalance due to fractured terrain resonance. Tactical override available. Inverse resonant shockwave will cause the entire poison matrix to collapse inward upon the casters.
A grade 4 blood formation? Lu Shen remarked aloud, dusting a speck of crimson mist from his sleeve with a dismissive chuckle. Your sect spent 40 years refining his array, yet you anchored your primary power conduits into porous sandstone with a 40-degree shear angle. In terms of architectural stability, this entire formation has the structural integrity of a wet paper lantern. Shui Sha's sneer froze, replaced by a wave of furious disbelief. Arrogant brat, die in the blood mist. With a wave of Shui Sha's hand, 60 assassins channeled their corrosive blood chi into the formation flags, sending a roaring tidal wave of boiling crimson acid sweeping down the canyon toward the Azure Cloud convoy.
Qingxue, 12 paces northwest, 30 degrees elevation. Lu Shen commanded calmly, his voice slicing through the roar of the poison wave. Unleash your glacial moonstrike at the fractured white quartz vein in the cliff face. Understood, Qingxue answered without a microsecond of hesitation. Leaping from her steed, Qingxue's slender figure vaulted 30 feet into the air. Her frost steel longsword ignited with brilliant starlight energy as she unleashed her fully refined peak foundation establishment glacial intent. Slash! A 300-foot crescent blade of pure glacial starlight tore through the sky, striking the exact quartz fault line indicated by Lu Shen. Crack! Boom! The strike did not merely cut the rock, it shattered the primary geological anchor of the Northwest Blood Flag, severing the formation's main energy return loop.
Instantly, the hundreds of thousands of gallons of boiling blood poison lost their forward trajectory. Like water in a burst pipe whose pressure relief valve had been welded shut, the chaotic blood energy reversed course, violently ricocheting straight back into the 60 assassins stationed on the cliffs. No, the energy flow is reversing! Shui Sha screamed in horror, attempting to sever his connection to the array. Too late. Boom, boom, boom.
A chain reaction of devastating spiritual explosions ripped across the canyon walls. Dozens of blood flags detonated into clouds of smoke, and 60 elite assassins were blasted from their perches by their own corrosive energy, falling like broken puppets onto the canyon floor. Before Shui Sha could recover from the shockwave, Lu Shen reached into his sleeve and pulled out a single modular Starlight array plate. Kinetic polarity inverted, gravity well configuration, Lu Shen whispered, flicking the plate into the center of the gorge. Hum-wham!
A localized gravitational vortex measuring 50 times normal atmospheric pressure exploded beneath Shui Sha's feet. The feared Grand Inquisitor was violently dragged out of the air, crashing face first into the rocky dirt with enough force to shatter his ribs and pin him helplessly to the ground. Qingxue landed softly beside the crater, resting the icy tip of her sword against Shui Sha's throat. The entire battle had lasted less than 45 seconds. Not a single Azure Cloud disciple had suffered a scratch. Bleeding from his mouth and nostrils, Shui Sha stared up at Lu Shen in sheer, unadulterated terror. You are a monster. What kind of cultivation technique is this?
Lu Shen stated that it's called structural engineering. Looking down at the defeated assassin with cold indifference, you brought a flawed formation to a battlefield against the man who writes the blueprints. Qingxue, bind him with cold star chains. We have a spirit iron mine to claim. By nightfall, the Azure Cloud Vanguard had completely secured the Crimson Spirit Mine, capturing over 20,000 tons of high-grade spirit ore and uncovering secret alliance documents hidden in Shui Sha's spatial ring.
The documents revealed a grand conspiracy. Patriarch Zhao Tianshan had secretly forged a coalition with 4 other regional sects, amassing an army of 10,000 cultivators to launch a total, overwhelming siege on Azure Cloud Mountain before the month's end. Standing at the entrance of the secured mine under the starlit sky, Lu Shen burned the alliance documents to ashes, his amber eyes blazing with cold determination. 10,000 cultivators? Lu Shen murmured, looking toward the distant peaks of the Iron Mountain sect.
then it is time to turn our ancestral mountain into an impregnable celestial slaughterhouse. The final confrontation arrived on the 27th day of the autumn cycle. From the northern horizon, the sky turned a bruised, ominous crimson as the combined army of the five-sect coalition marched toward the Azure Cloud Mountain. 10,000 armored cultivators marched in dense, disciplined phalanxes, their war drums pounding a rhythm that shook the pine forest for leagues around. Towering above the infantry were 16 colossal, heaven-rupturing siege towers constructed from reinforced ironwood, each bristling with spirit cannon batteries and catapults loaded with incendiary alchemical fire. At the head of this massive vanguard flew the colossal black banners of the Iron Mountain sect, flanked by the serpent insignias of the Thousand Poison Pavilion, the skull totems of the Blood Shadow Valley, and the crimson flags of the Roaring Tiger Clan. Hovering in the sky above the center vanguard was Patriarch Zhao Tianshan himself, cloaked in heavy earth core armor forged from black meteorite ore, holding an 8-foot mountain-cleat glaive. Flanking him were 4 golden core grand elders from the allied sects, their combined spiritual auras creating a terrifying pressure dome that crushed the mountain fog into vapor. "Lu Shen, you insolent whelp!" Zhao Tianshan's roar echoed across the entire valley, magnified by his late golden core cultivation so intensely that the stone cliffs shuddered. "You destroyed my son's siege engine, humiliated my elders, and butchered my allies at the Crimson Gorge. Today, 10,000 swords will level your mountain to ash. If you surrender now, commit suicide before my vanguard, and offer your 2 junior sisters as blood sacrifices, I will leave your ancestors' graves unmolested."
Behind the grand Starlight barrier of Azure Cloud Mountain, over 200 sect artisans, blacksmiths, and new disciples stood along the battlements, their faces pale under the terrifying sight of 10,000 enemy warriors. Yet, at the central command platform, Lu Shen stood tall, his white and gold scholar robes fluttering gently in the mountain gale. Beside him, Qingxue held her frost steel blade, her crystal blue eyes cold and focused, while Xiaolinger diligently managed the automated ammunition supply lines with a clipboard in hand. 10,000 soldiers, 16 siege towers, and 5 golden core commanders, Lu Shen observed in a calm, analytical tone, his amber eyes dancing with glowing golden schematics as the heavenly blueprint system processed the biofield. Ding! Battlefield grid initialized. 10,000 hostile entities detected. Primary threat, combined 5-element resonance siege matrix. Automated celestial defense grid, 100% operational. Subterranean void core output, maximum capacity. Calculation complete. 3-phase structural disruption strategy generated. Qingxue stated, "Sect Master, the disciples are ready," her voice steady. "The ammunition bays are fully stocked with 30,000 cold star armor-piercing bolts." Lu Shen clarified to Good, a sharp, confident smirk curling on his lips. In conventional warfare, numbers grant psychological advantage. In engineering, a large, poorly coordinated mass is merely a catastrophic concentration of structural vulnerability. Let us show them the true meaning of Dao automation. Lu Shen raised his right hand, unfurling a glowing golden scroll of light that connected directly to the mountain's central control nexus. "Automated celestial ballista array. Engage primary targeting sequence," Lu Shen commanded. "Target priority, heavy siege tower kinetic hinges. Fire!" Clank, clank, clank. Thwip, thwip, thwip. Along the 4 grand watchtowers of the Azure Cloud perimeter, 80 automated cold star ballistas rotated simultaneously with hydraulic precision. Without requiring a single disciple to pull a bowstring, the optical tracking runes locked onto the 16 moving siege towers with computerized accuracy. In a fraction of a second, 80 12-foot cold star iron spears broke the sound barrier, shrieking through the air with deafening sonic booms. Screech, crash. The kinetic force of the supersonic iron spears was staggering. Rather than aiming blindly at the thick armor plating of the towers, every single bolt struck the exact structural joint where the wooden support beams met the iron chassis, the critical shear points calculated by Lu Shen's system. In a single simultaneous volley, all 16 colossal siege towers collapsed violently inward like houses of cards. Tons of heavy ironwood, burning pitch, and unexploded spirit cannon ammunition crushed hundreds of coalition soldiers beneath the wreckage, sending blinding fireballs and clouds of black smoke mushrooming hundreds of feet into the sky. "What in the 9 heavens was that?" A grand elder from the Roaring Tiger Clan shrieked in horror, dodging a flying 3-ton timber beam. "They destroyed our entire siege line in a single volley from 5 miles away, without casting a single spell." Zhao Tianshan demanded that disciples advance, charge the mountain gate. In a fury, his golden core aura flaring with blinding ochre light. "Their ballistas need time to reload. Swarm the gate and tear down their barrier." 10,000 armored coalition cultivators let out a battle cry, surging forward like a tidal wave of bronze and iron, their swords drawn, charging straight into the narrow bottleneck of the mountain approach.
Watching the massive army pack themselves tightly into the 300-meter gorge, Lu Shen nodded toward Xiaolinger. Linger, release the secondary kinetic containment.
Releasing containment, Linger cheered, pulling a polished brass lever on the command console. Deep beneath the mountain gorge, the subterranean void core released a massive pulse of spatial energy through the 40 underground slate conduits Lu Shen had buried the previous night. Crack. The entire cobblestone floor of the mountain approach suddenly dematerialized, replaced by a swirling, multi-layered 9-fold void collapse resonance array.
The gravitational field within the gorge multiplied by a factor of 100 in an instant. 10,000 charging warriors suddenly felt the weight of an entire mountain range crash down upon their shoulders. Thousands of heavy broadswords snapped in half under their own weight. Bronze armor buckled like tinfoil, and the entire front line of 5,000 soldiers was slammed violently flat against the earth, unable to lift a single finger. A spatial gravity array of this scale requires 50 Golden Core Formation Masters to maintain. Zhao Tianshan gasped, floating in the sky, his eyes bulging with sheer terror. How is a single ruined mountain generating this much spatial pressure?
Because you build your formations with manpower. Lu Shen's voice resonated through the clouds, calm and unshakable as he stepped off the battlement and began walking downward through the empty air, supported by invisible steps of golden geometric light. While I build mine with celestial physics. Floating above the pinned, groaning ranks of his 10,000 soldiers, Patriarch Zhao Tianshan's veins bulged with demonic madness. He realized that if he did not slaughter Lu Shen immediately, the Iron Mountain sect's century-old legacy would be erased from the southern province before sunset. 4 elders, combine our golden cores, Zhao Tianshan screamed, his mountain-cleaving glaive igniting with blinding yellow magma flames. Form the earth-shattering 5-element Sunder Array. Obliterate this brat into atoms.
The 4 Golden Core Grand Elders from the Thousand Poison, Blood Shadow, Roaring Tiger, and Black Sand sects gritted their teeth, flying into a pentagonal formation around Zhao Tianshan. Their 5 Golden Cores resonated together, condensing a colossal 500-foot spectral war axe of molten magma and corrosive venom that hung in the heavens, burning the clouds into steam with enough destructive force to sever an entire mountain peak in half. Zhao Tianshan demanded that die Lu Shen, swinging the apocalyptic spectral axe straight down toward Lu Shen's head. Standing in midair with his hands clasped behind his back, Lu Shen did not blink. Ding! Extreme threat matrix detected. Combined 5-core kinetic strike. Analyzing elemental resonance. Flaw identified. Earth and water cores suffer from an 11.4% phase delay at the central transmission node. Countermeasure blueprint. Harmonic inversion resonance.
A 5-element combination array where your water, poison, and earth magma nodes are completely out of phase. Lu Shen sighed with genuine pity, shaking his head. Did your formation masters never learn basic harmonic phase alignment? Lu Shen reached into his robes and retrieved the Void Sovereign Compass, a celestial artifact he had personally forged from deep void gold and cold star iron using the Tier 2 blueprint compiler. With a gentle twist of the compass dial, Lu Shen projected a golden tuning wave through the air. Ping! The delicate harmonic pulse struck the spectral 500-foot axe at the precise intersection where the magma and venom energies met. For half a second, the colossal axe shuddered violently.
Then, the fundamental law of elemental opposition took over. The venomous water energy and the boiling earth magma clashed with zero harmonic dampening, triggering an internal elemental cancellation reaction. Boom! The apocalyptic 500-foot spectral axe detonated prematurely in the upper atmosphere, washing the sky in a harmless shower of colorful golden sparks and harmless steam. The catastrophic backlash of 5 ruptured golden core conduits slammed back into the 5 sect masters, causing the 4 grand elders to spray mouthfuls of golden essence blood as they plummeted out of the sky like shooting stars. Before Zhao Tianshan could process the collapse of his ultimate strike, a flash of blinding glacial starlight illuminated the clouds.
Qingxue descended from above like a celestial sword goddess, her glacial moon sword intent freezing the atmospheric moisture into thousands of razor-sharp ice petals. With a single, elegant sweep of her frost steel blade, she severed the weapons of the remaining 4 elders, freezing their cultivation meridian solid and sealing them into 4 crystalline blocks of ice. Zhao Tianshan found himself entirely alone, floating 10 feet away from Lu Shen, his heavy earth core armor trembling violently under the absolute dread radiating from the young sect master.
What kind of immortal reincarnate are you?
Zhao Tianshan stammered, raising his heavy glaive with trembling hands. My Earth core armor was forged from 700-year-old volcanic meteorite. Even a nascent soul expert cannot breach its defense in less than an hour. Lu Shan stated, a structure is only as strong as its weakest weld, Patriarch Zhao, calmly, walking forward until he stood less than 2 paces from the tyrant. Lu Shan raised his index finger, letting a microscopic needle of golden blueprint chi condense at the fingertip. With a light, effortless tap, Lu Shan pressed his finger against the left collarbone seam of Zhao Tianshan's meteorite armor. Ting! A hairline golden crack appeared at the seam. In the next breath, the crack spread at the speed of sound across the entire suit of black meteorite plate. Crash! The legendary, supposedly indestructible Earth core armor shattered into millions of tiny black pebbles, clattering harmlessly to the ground below. Zhao Tianshan stood stripped of his armor, clutching his chest in absolute horror as the cold mountain breeze chilled his exposed skin. Your armor was cast with uneven cooling temperatures, leaving residual internal tensile stress along every weld line, Lu Shen explained, his amber eyes gazing into Zhao Tianshan's soul with the cold precision of an absolute master. Your sect's era of predatory get, flawed engineering, and tyrannical extortion ends today. Disarm your troops, surrender your sect seals, and yield your spirit veins. Zhao Tianshan's knees gave out. He fell to his knees in midair, bowing his head toward Lu Shen in total, unconditional surrender. The Iron Mountain sect yields, Zhao Tianshan choked out, tears of defeat washing through the soot on his cheeks. We yield to the Azure Cloud Pavilion. Down below in the gorge, seeing their supreme patriarch on his knees and their grand siege engines reduced to smoking scrap, all 10,000 coalition soldiers threw down their weapons and armor in unison. The sound of clattering bronze and steel echoed across the valley like a wave of falling iron rain, followed by a chorus of 10,000 voices pleading for mercy. Standing atop the mountain ramparts, Xiaolinger wiped joyful tears from her eyes as she stamped the official annexation seal onto 20 blank territory ledgers. Master Han Chong and 200 sect artisans cheered at the top of their lungs, their voices ringing through the clouds in a triumph that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Within 3 days, the transformation of the southern province was complete. The territories, treasuries, and spirit veins of the 5 defeated sects were systematically incorporated into the newly established Azure Cloud Engineering Union. Over 80,000 tons of raw spirit iron, 4 million low-grade spirit stones, and 500 rare architectural manuals were transported to the Azure Cloud mountain vaults. On the 4th morning, a lavish golden flying palanquin descended onto the Azure Cloud courtyard. Stepping out was Grand Elder Murong Ba, accompanied by the Supreme Arbiter of the 5 Alliances Merchant Council, an elderly gentleman with a white beard and opulent robes of imperial silk. Both men dropped to their knees before Lu Shen's study desk, presenting a golden box containing the sovereign deeds to the entire southern province's mineral rights.
Sect Master Lu, no, Sovereign Lu, Grand Elder Murong pleaded, trembling profusely, as he offered the box with both hands. The 5 Alliances Merchant Council was blind and failed to recognize Mount Tai. We have formally revoked all debts, dissolved all hostile covenants, and hereby grant the Azure Cloud Pavilion permanent exemption from all provincial taxes and sovereign jurisdiction over the southern continent. Lu Shen casually accepted the golden box, handing it to Xiaolinger to file into the treasury archives.
The 5 alliances may continue their commercial operations in my territory, Lu Shen announced calmly, provided that 60% of all refined spirit metal entering your markets is allocated to our construction divisions, and all formation standards follow the Azure Cloud Modular Blueprint Code. We obey Sovereign Lu's decree. The Supreme Arbiter bowed deeply, wiping cold sweat from his brow. With the province completely unified and stabilized, Lu Shen ascended to the highest peak of Azure Cloud Mountain at midnight. Sitting cross-legged upon the ancient observation platform beneath the brilliant canopy of stars, he accessed the deepest layers of the heavenly blueprint system. Ding! Southern Province territorial consolidation complete. Sect Prestige Index 10,000 plus, Sovereign Grade 4 Supreme Sect. Heavenly Blueprint System unlocked, Tier 3, Planetary Tao Architecture and Celestial Void Engine. System Processing Power upgraded, 100,000 flops. Ancient Secret decrypted. The complete blueprint of the pre-Tao era celestial warship Skypiercer has been fully reconstructed. As the system log faded, a colossal, breathtaking golden hologram materialized above the mountain peak. Floating within the starlight was the complete, majestic blueprint of a 3,000-foot celestial warship. An ancient intercontinental dreadnought, equipped with planetary-scale orbital cannons, automated void shields, and the capability to pierce through the spatial boundaries of the mortal domain into the higher celestial continents.
Beside him, Qingxue approached quietly, her silver ponytail fluttering in the midnight breeze. Her cultivation had fully stabilized at the pristine early golden core realm, her aura as pure and untouchable as a glacial goddess. Qingxue stated that, "Sect Master," softly, looking up at the colossal golden warship blueprint floating among the stars. "Our mountain is safe, our enemies are pacified, and our treasury is full. What is our next destination?"
Lucian looked up at the vast, infinite sea of stars stretching beyond the mortal horizon, his amber eyes reflecting the boundless possibilities of the cosmos. "A single mountain was merely our foundation, Qingxue," Lucian smiled, his voice filled with boundless ambition and the calm confidence of an architect who had mastered the laws of creation. "The mortal domain is small. In 3 months, we will lay the keel of the Skypiercer, and together we will build a Tao empire that will rewrite the blueprints of the heavens themselves."
Deep within the core archives of the Skypiercer, while calibrating the void harmonic conduits in preparation for the intercontinental transit, Lu Shen uncovered a sealed data chamber locked behind a 9th-generation spatial encryption cipher. The chamber bore the ancient crest of the primordial Azure dragon, inlaid with pulsating runes of liquid starlight that resisted all physical and spiritual probes. "Sect Master, our diagnostic array indicates that this cipher was sealed using an ancient bloodline resonance matrix," Qingxue noted, her hand resting against the chilled stone console as her crystal blue eyes observed the shifting crimson runes. Historical legends recount that founding Master Xuanye made a pact with the guardian spirit of the Azure Void, an ancient astral dragon that once slumbered within the mountain's deepest fault line.
Lucian explained that a bloodline cipher is simply a multivariable biological encryption key, calmly pulling up the 3-dimensional schematic on the heavenly blueprint system. Traditional cultivators believe only direct genetic descendants can bypass the lock. In truth, the system is merely scanning for 3 specific harmonic frequencies: pure glacial yin resonance, starlight spiritual conductivity, and architectural Tao intent. Lucian turned toward Qingxue, nodding with a confident smile. "Qingxue, place your hand upon the left starlight node and channel your glacial moon sword intent at 42 Hz. Linger, feed 5 drops of pure liquid Tao essence into the central conduit. I will modulate the carrier frequency." As their 3 energies converged upon the ancient cipher plate, the chaotic crimson runes instantly aligned into a magnificent glowing golden mandala. Click. Hiss. The sealed titanium bronze bulkhead slid open smoothly, revealing a spherical chamber lined with thousands of crystalline data cylinders floating in zero-gravity suspension. At the center of the chamber floated a miniature, slumbering astral projection of a translucent azure dragon, coiled around a radiant golden artifact known in ancient celestial lore as the primordial blueprint matrix. As Lu Shen stepped into the chamber, the miniature azure dragon opened its ancient star-filled eyes, gazing into Lu Shen's amber retinas with a profound, resonant hum that echoed directly within his soul.
After 1,200 winters, a true architect walks the deck of the Skypiercer. The dragon's telepathic voice resonated, deep and timeless like shifting tectonic plates. "You who see the structural flaws of heaven and earth, do you possess the resolve to wield the primordial matrix and challenge the decaying dynasties of the upper heavens?" "I am not interested in challenging dynasties for the sake of conquest, guardian spirit," Lu Shen answered evenly, holding his hand out toward the floating artifact. "I am an engineer. Where I see decaying, obsolete structures that crush the lives of the innocent, I dismantle them and build something that actually works." The astral dragon let out a low, majestic rumble of approval, dissolving into a stream of pure golden light that flowed directly into the heavenly blueprint system interface. Ding!
Primordial blueprint matrix fully integrated. System processing capacity multiplied by 10x, 1 million flops. Hidden schematics unlocked, 9 heaven planetary defense grid, interdimensional void gateways, and celestial stargate anchor. Host cultivation base elevated to peak foundation establishment, 0 bottleneck equilibrium. A wave of pristine, transcendent starlight energy washed through Lu Shen's physical meridians. His sensory perception expanded outward across thousands of miles, perceiving the subtle vibrational pulse of every leaf, every grain of sand, and every spiritual conduit across the entire southern continent with crystalline clarity. The next morning, the sky above the Azure Cloud Mountain was split by the roar of thunderous draconic trumpets. A celestial cloud barge bearing the shimmering golden crest of the central divine empire descended through the azure starlight dome, flanked by 12 imperial guards clad in dazzling sun gold plate armor. At the prow stood Imperial Envoy Duke Chen, a haughty official with a feathered headdress and a golden scroll in his hands. He looked down upon the newly constructed forges and automated ballistas of Azure Cloud Mountain with thinly veiled disdain.
Sovereign Lu Shen of Azure Cloud Pavilion, receive the imperial decree. Duke Chen projected his voice with the arrogance of a core official from the continent's capital. His Imperial Majesty has heard of your unauthorized annexation of 5 regional sects. However, recognizing your uncanny talent in array manipulation, the Imperial Court generously offers you the position of 7th-rank junior artificer in the Imperial Construction Bureau. You are ordered to hand over all modular array schematics to the Imperial Academy within 10 days and report to the capital for your investiture. The gathered disciples along the battlements grew tense, their hands gripping the cold star ballista levers. Lu Shen stood on the observation balcony, sipping a cup of freshly brewed Starlight tea without even rising from his seat.
Lu Shen explained that Duke Chen, his voice carried effortlessly by the mountain's acoustic resonance, you have traveled 4,000 miles to deliver a 7th-rank clerkship and an order of intellectual property confiscation. Allow me to offer you a counterproposal. Duke Chen's eyes narrowed in outraged shock. You dare barter with the Imperial Court? Lu Shen stated that your cloud barge, gesturing with his teacup toward the hovering golden vessel, is operating on a 3rd-generation pneumatic levitation rune that loses 12% of its lift capacity every 15 minutes in high humidity. If you do not calibrate the auxiliary stern thruster within 40 seconds, your ship will crash directly into our lower cabbage patch. Duke Chen's face flushed red with rage. Absurd slander. This barge was constructed by the grand artificers of the Imperial Academy. Before the words could fully leave his mouth, a loud mechanical pop echoed from the rear of the Imperial barge. Thick white steam hissed from the stern exhaust. The golden anti-gravity runes flickered violently, and the multi-ton vessel tilted sharply, plummeting toward the earth at terrifying speed. "Mayday! Auxiliary thruster failed!" the Imperial helmsman screamed in panic. With a casual wave of his hand, Lu Shen activated a localized Starlight tractor beam from the mountain defense grid. A gentle cradle of azure light caught the falling Imperial barge 10 feet above Degoras, lowering it softly to the ground without scratching the paint. Duke Chen stumbled out of the cabin, pale as a ghost, clutching his feathered hat in trembling hands.
Lu Shen walked down the steps, stopping 3 paces from the shaken envoy. Inform His Imperial Majesty that Sovereign Lu Shen will attend the Continental Sovereign Conclave next month, but I will not come as a 7th-rank clerk. I will come as the sovereign architect of the southern domain. With Duke Chen thoroughly humbled and sent back to the capital aboard a recalibrated barge, the Azure Cloud Pavilion entered a period of unprecedented industrial acceleration.
Lady Yan arrived at the mountain that afternoon, accompanied by 4 heavy merchant airships carrying rare deep-sea materials and the final missing component required for the Skypiercer, the Astral Navigation Core Crystal, recovered from the depths of the Eastern Void Ocean. Lady Yan stated that Sect Master Lu, stepping into the Subterranean shipyard with eyes full of wonder. The entire capital is talking about your response to Duke Chen. The Imperial Academy's Grand Inscription Masters have already declared that they will publicly expose your fraudulent modular methods during the opening ceremony of the Sovereign Conclave.
Let them talk, Lu Shen smiled, examining the glowing blue astral navigation crystal in his palm. Academic gatekeepers always claim innovation is impossible until it renders their textbooks obsolete. Come, Lady Yan, let me show you the true reason I invited you here. Lu Shen led her to the central dry dock, where Master Han Chong and 50 blacksmiths were assembling the keel of the Skypiercer.
Using the Tier 3 blueprint system, Lu Shen had redesigned every individual structural rib of the 3,000-foot Dreadnought. Rather than using brittle single-piece casting methods, the hull was built from modular, interlocking hexagonal plates of cold star iron, infused with deep void gold. Each plate acted as both a physical armor barrier and an integrated kinetic capacitor, capable of absorbing hostile energy strikes and converting them directly into engine fuel. Beside the dry dock, Qingxue was testing her newly forged weapon, the Celestial Glacial Longsword, which Lu Shen had reforged using the astral crystal's resonant offcuts.
With a light flick of her wrist, Qingxue unleashed a single test slash against a 10-ton block of testing iron. The blade cut through the solid metal as effortlessly as hot iron through butter, leaving behind an incision coated in permanent, shimmering starlight frost. With this fleet, Lady Yan breathed softly, resting her hand upon the Dreadnought's black gold hull. The Azure Cloud Pavilion will not merely attend the Sovereign Conclave. You will dominate it.
Over the next 20 days, the subterranean cavern of Azure Cloud Mountain turned into a hive of non-stop mechanical creation. Over 500 trained artisans worked in 3 continuous shifts, guided by golden hologram projections cast directly onto the assembly floor by the heavenly blueprint system. Every rivet, every hydraulic line, and every kinetic conduit was installed with sub-millimeter precision. Xiao managed the supply chains with extraordinary efficiency, ensuring that every batch of spirit alloy was tested for density and resonance before it touched the assembly line. On the 21st day, the final Starlight plating was secured.
The Sky Piercer stood complete, a 3,000-foot celestial dreadnought of sleek, aerodynamic black and gold armor. Its dagger-like prow was equipped with 3 heavy Void Lance cannons, while its broadside decks housed 40 automated Cold Star ballista batteries. Floating above the central bridge was the Subterranean Void Core, now serving as the primary interdimensional engine. Disciples of Azure Cloud, Lu Shen's voice echoed through the vast dry dock as he stood upon the command bridge alongside Qingxue, Xiao and Lady Yanyue. For centuries, the southern domain was looked down upon as a destitute frontier. Today, we take to the skies, not as beggars, but as sovereigns. Lu Shen pressed his palm against the central command console. Heavenly Blueprint, ignite the Void Core. Sky Piercer, launch.
Vroom! A majestic, deep-throated sonic pulse resonated through the mountain. The subterranean cavern ceiling parted along ancient hydraulic seams, opening a grand shaft directly to the sky. With zero friction and zero engine noise, the 3,000-foot celestial dreadnought rose vertically into the heavens, its starlight wings unfurling across the clouds like the feathers of an ancient celestial dragon. The flight of the Sky Piercer across the 9 continents became an overnight legend that shook the foundations of every major sect and kingdom along its path. Traveling at cruising altitudes exceeding 30,000 feet, the colossal dreadnought cleaved through the ocean of clouds with effortless majesty, casting a massive golden shadow across plains, rivers, and mountain ranges. In the southern city-states, millions of mortal citizens and rogue cultivators poured out into the streets, looking up in awe at the flying fortress that looked less like a mortal ship and more like an immortal palace descended from the highest heavens. Rival sect patriarchs stood upon their high watchtowers with spiritual telescopes, their jaws slack and their hearts trembling as they observed the flawless aerodynamic lines and the terrifying array of supersonic cold star ballistas lining the dreadnought's broadsides. Inside the Sky Piercer's central bridge, Lu Shen stood before the holographic navigation table. The Heavenly Blueprint system was actively scanning the geographical terrain below, mapping out ancient spiritual ley lines, hidden mineral deposits, and spatial anomalies across the continent at a speed of 10,000 square miles per minute. Secmaster, we have crossed into the airspace of the Central Divine Empire, Qingxue reported, pointing to the shimmering golden barrier visible on the northern horizon. The imperial capital, Dragon Sovereign City, lies 70 miles ahead. Reduce speed to half impulse, Lu Shen ordered smoothly. Maintain flight altitude at 20,000 feet. Let them look upon the future of Dao architecture.
Dragon Sovereign City was the largest metropolis in the mortal domain, a sprawling, ancient imperial capital covering 500 square miles, enclosed by 7 concentric rings of white jade walls. Hovering above the imperial palace was the legendary 9 Dragons Heavenlock Array, an ancient Grade 6 barrier that had protected the dynasty for 3,000 years. At the Grand Imperial Cloud Pier, hundreds of flying barges belonging to the top 30 sects of the continent were anchored. Among the gathered dignitaries was Grand Inscription Master Mo from the Imperial Academy, a proud white-bearded elder in 9 dragon silk robes who was surrounded by dozens of admiring disciples. The young upstart from the southern province has finally arrived, Elder Mo chuckled condescendingly, gesturing toward the sky. Let us see what crude wooden junk he has cobbled together from his backwater mountains.
Suddenly, the sunlight over Dragon Sovereign City was completely eclipsed. A deep, low-frequency atmospheric hum vibrated the wine cups in the banquet halls. Looking up, the tens of thousands of cultivators at the pier gasped in collective shock. Descending through the clouds was not a wooden barge, but a 3,000-foot celestial dreadnought of gleaming black and gold armor. The sheer kinetic displacement of its descent created a majestic ring of white vapor, and as its automated landing stabilizers locked into the sky with mathematical precision, the entire 9 Dragons Heavenlock Array flickered in resonant greeting.
What kind of monster ship is that? Elder Mo gasped, his aristocratic composure completely shattering as his golden wine cup slipped from his fingers and shattered on the jade floor. That hull is forged entirely from interlocking cold star iron and deep void gold. The structural design violates all traditional casting doctrines, yet its spiritual stability is at 100%.
The boarding ramp of the Skypiercer lowered with a hiss of pressurized steam. Lu Shen walked down the ramp in his pristine white and gold sovereign robes, accompanied by Qingxue in her celestial frost armor and Lady Yanye in her midnight purple silk gown. Stepping onto the Imperial Pier, Lu Shen looked directly at the trembling Grand Inscription Master Mo. "Elder Mo, I presume?" Lu Shen greeted with a faint, knowing smile. "Before you deliver your planned lecture on traditional formation doctrine, allow me to point out, your 9 Dragons Heaven lock array above the palace has 17 critical shear points along its southern harmonic loop. If an enemy strikes node 24 with 3 units of void energy, your 3,000-year-old barrier will collapse in less than 12 seconds.
Lu Shen's declaration caused an earthquake of outrage and disbelief throughout the imperial conclave. Within an hour, the emperor of the Central Divine Dynasty convened an emergency sovereign tribunal in the Grand Imperial Arena to put Lu Shen's claims to the test. "Sovereign Lu Shen," the emperor spoke from his dragon throne, his voice carrying the immense weight of an imperial ruler. "You claim our ancestral 9 Dragons array is flawed, and that your modular Dao engineering surpasses 3 millennia of imperial formation tradition. Therefore, the Imperial Court challenges you to a Divine Forge tournament against Grand Master Mo. You shall each construct a Grade 5 defensive formation in the center of the arena, and our Imperial Dragon Vanguard shall test their strength with 3 concentrated strikes from the heaven-sundering divine cannon."
Lu Shen explained that I accept the challenge, calmly stepping into his designated construction ring. Grandmaster Mo sneered, immediately calling upon 20 senior disciples to lay out 99 rare jade talismans, jars of 1,000-year dragon blood ink, and expensive silver formation flags. For 2 full hours, Mo chanted complex incantations, painstakingly painting rune after rune while sweating profusely, slowly constructing a traditional 9-fold golden bell formation. When Mo finally finished, exhausted and gasping for breath, he looked smugly across the arena toward Lu Shen's side. Lu Shen had not moved an inch. He had spent the 2 hours quietly sipping tea while reading a scroll. "Your time is almost up, Sovereign Lu," Elder Mo laughed mockingly. "Where is your formation? Did you realize your charlatan tricks cannot compare to true Imperial Dao?"
Lu Shen set his teacup down. In modern engineering, the design is perfected before assembly. The actual deployment takes less than 1 minute. Walking to the center of his ring, Lu Shen reached into his sleeve and pulled out 6 hexagonal modular slate plates, forged from cold star iron. With 6 effortless flicks of his wrist, the plates flew into 6 cardinal positions on the arena floor. "Heavenly Blueprint, Void Aegis Network, assemble," Lu Shen whispered. Clink, clink, clink. In less than 3 seconds, the 6 plates locked together along magnetic flux lines. A blinding dome of translucent, golden honeycomb energy erupted into the sky, radiating an unshakable aura of absolute geometric equilibrium. "Fire the cannon," the Emperor commanded, leaning forward on his throne.
The Imperial Dragon Vanguard ignited the heaven-sundering divine cannon. A colossal beam of apocalyptic golden laser energy shot across the arena, striking Grandmaster Mo's golden bell formation first. Boom! Mo's complex formation held for 2 seconds before shattering into violent jade fragments, blasting the Old Master and his 20 disciples, tumbling across the arena in defeat. The second cannon beam struck Lu Shen's Void Aegis network. Buzz! The apocalyptic energy slammed into the golden honeycomb dome. Rather than cracking or shaking, the hexagonal barrier absorbed the entire laser beam, channeled the energy through its internal kinetic conduits, and converted the kinetic force directly into a brilliant display of harmless starlight fireworks that illuminated the entire capital. The Imperial Arena went dead silent for 5 full seconds, followed by a thunderous, deafening roar of applause from 200,000 spectators.
Grandmaster Mo sat in the dirt, his hair disheveled, his eyes wide with profound enlightenment and total humility. He scrambled to his knees, crawling toward Lu Shen and bowing his head to the stone floor. "Master Lu, your formation is the true Tao of creation. This old fool was blind. Please accept me as your student." Following the integration of the primordial blueprint matrix and the total humiliation of Grand Inscription Master Mo at the Imperial Arena, the Imperial Court entered a state of profound political transformation. Realizing that traditional, corrupt bureaucratic monopolies could no longer compete with the efficiency of modular Dao engineering, the Emperor issued the Imperial Decree of Architectural Reformation.
The 3,000-year-old Imperial Inscription Guild was officially dissolved and reconstituted as the Continental Engineering Academy, with Lu Shen installed as the Supreme Grand Chancellor of all continental infrastructure. In his first official act as Grand Chancellor, Lu Shen abolished the archaic monopolistic licensing fees that had prevented commoners and low-tier cultivators from learning formation arts. In their place, Lu Shen established 30 regional vocational institutes across all 7 imperial provinces, distributing standardized textbooks on structural formation mechanics, microscopic rune hydrodynamics, and modular array prefabrication. Within 3 months, the economic output of the entire Central Divine Empire increased by 400%. Where famine once struck during harsh winters, automated agricultural greenhouses provided abundant harvest. Where bandit clans and demonic beasts once terrorized remote trade routes, modular automated ballista bastions ensured complete, unhindered safety for traveling families and merchant caravans. The name of Sovereign Lu Shen was no longer merely spoken in hushed whispers of awe among high-tier sect patriarchs. It was carved in golden letters upon the public monument plaques of 10,000 cities, revered by hundreds of millions of common mortals as the savior of the 9 continents. Standing atop the highest observation terrace of the imperial capital at sunset, Qingxue, Xiaolinger, and Lady Yan Yue stood beside Lu Shen, looking out over the endless expanse of glowing, orderly cities stretching all the way to the ocean horizon. Sect Master, Xiaolinger smiled brightly, holding a golden ledger filled with the latest continental census figures. Every city in the empire has officially adopted our blueprint standards. The people have started calling this era the Age of the Divine Blueprint. Lu Shen explained that this is only the first step, Linger. Gently, his amber eyes reflecting the golden sunset as the massive silhouette of the Skypiercer floated majestically in the twilight sky above them. We have brought order and prosperity to the mortal earth. Now it is time to build our highway to the stars. Following the total triumph in the imperial arena, the emperor personally descended from his throne, presenting Lu Shen the Imperial Sovereign Architect seal and granting the Azure Cloud Pavilion sovereign authority over all continental construction and defensive infrastructure. However, just as the victory banquet reached its height in the imperial palace, a violent tremor shook the entire world. The sky above the 9 continents split open like torn parchment, revealing a colossal, ancient dimensional rift in the upper stratosphere. The long-lost celestial void ruin gate, sealed 10,000 years ago during the Great Primordial War. Terrifying void storms and ancient celestial energy poured from the rift, threatening to destabilize the atmosphere of the entire mortal realm. Traditional flying ships and cultivation experts were instantly shredded by the intense spatial turbulence near the gate. Only a vessel with a true void core and modular kinetic armor can survive the atmospheric pressure of the ruin gate, Lady Yan Yue exclaimed, pointing to the glowing rift. Standing at the prow of the Skypiercer as it hovered above Dragon Sovereign City, Lu Shen unfurled the fully awakened Tier 3 heavenly blueprint across the heavens. Disciples of Azure Cloud, engines to full output, Lu Shen commanded, his amber eyes blazing with the golden fire of a sovereign creator. The mortal domain has been mastered. Beyond that gate lies the boundless architecture of the celestial heavens. With a majestic roar that echoed across the entire continent, the 3,000-foot Skypiercer surged upward, breaking through the clouds, passing through the ancient ruin gate, and embarking upon its legendary voyage into the uncharted cosmos of the upper continents. Before the Skypiercer embarked upon its final ascent through the celestial void ruin gate, a grand delegation of 9 sovereign monarchs representing the 9 palaces of the upper astral domain descended upon the lower stratosphere aboard 9 radiant star chariots. These ancient rulers, having governed the cosmic boundaries for 50,000 years, had observed the sudden harmonic stabilization of the mortal domain's ley lines with profound suspicion and awe. Hovering 10,000 feet above Dragon Sovereign City, the lead star chariot parted its diamond curtains, revealing sovereign monarch Suen, an ancient, immortal patriarch whose eyes contained the birth and death of distant galaxies. Mortal Sovereign Lu Shen, Taishuan's voice echoed across the firmament, ringing with the crushing weight of a void refinement realm master. You have achieved what 10,000 generations of mortal cultivators failed to accomplish. You have brought mathematical order to the chaotic elemental currents of the lower realm. Yet the laws of the upper celestial palaces are strict. To pass through the ruin gate and enter the astral sea, every sovereign must surrender their core architectural blueprints to the 9 Palaces archive and swear fealty to the immortal throne. The tens of millions of cultivators and citizens watching from the earth held their breath. In the history of the 9 continents, no mortal sect had ever dared to stand against the decrees of the upper astral palaces. Aboard the command bridge of the Skypiercer, Lu Shen stood calmly behind the transparent crystal viewport, holding the floating golden scroll of the Tier 4 heavenly blueprint system. Sovereign Tai Shen. Lu Shen's voice resonated through the sky, carrying the crisp, authoritative clarity of an architect addressing an obsolete city council. Your 9 palaces have ruled the astral sea for 50,000 years, yet your celestial boundaries suffer from an 83% structural entropy decay. Your ancient stargates leak 40 million units of pure void energy into the void abyss every cycle, causing the slow collapse of the mortal realm's spiritual veins.
Tai Swen's celestial expression froze. For 30,000 years, the secret decay of the upper astral stargates had been the most closely guarded crisis of the 9 palaces. Not even their greatest grandmasters could locate the source of the entropy leak. How could a mortal know of the stargate entropy decay? Tai Swen gasped, his immortal aura rippling with shock.
Because your ancient ancestors built your stargates using single-point spatial anchors instead of multi-axial geometric suspension, Lu Shen answered smoothly, raising the void sovereign compass into the air. You do not need my blueprints for your archive, Sovereign Tai Swen. You need my blueprints to prevent your 9 palaces from collapsing into a black hole. Lu Shen turned compass dial. A colossal beam of golden blueprint light shot straight from the prow of the Skypiercer into the center of the decaying ruin gate. In less than 10 seconds, the chaotic void storms around the gate vanished. The unstable, jagged spatial tear aligned into a magnificent, perfectly circular Stargate archway of polished golden starlight, locked in place by 12 self-regulating harmonic nodes that resonated in eternal equilibrium. Cosmic architecture deployed, Tier 1 astral Stargate keystone. Stargate energy leakage reduced from 83.4% to 0.00%. Spatial transit stability index 100%. Sovereign monarch Tai Swen and the 8 other astral rulers stared at the stabilized Stargate in absolute stunned silence. The ancient patriarch slowly lowered his star chariot, stepped onto the golden observation deck of the Skypiercer, and bowed from the waist with the deepest reverence an immortal could offer. Sovereign architect Lu Shen, Tai Swen proclaimed, his voice echoing across the cosmos. The 9 palaces of the upper heavens do not demand your fealty. We open the gates of the galaxy and welcome you as the supreme master architect of the celestial realm. Behind Lu Shen, Qingxue drew her celestial blade in a flawless salute, while Xiaolinger stamped the final universal pact into the sect annals. Master Han Chang and the 500 artisans raised their hammers toward the sky, unleashing a cheer that reverberated across the mortal and immortal realms alike. In the weeks following the formal recognition by the sovereign monarchs of the 9 palaces, the boundary zones surrounding the newly stabilized Stargate became the most prosperous commercial hub in the known universe, the Starlight Sovereign Market. Cultivators and merchant guilds from 30 mortal provinces and 9 celestial domains converged upon the massive floating platforms anchored around the Stargate. Where ancient sects once guarded their crude formation recipes with paranoid secrecy, the Azure Cloud Pavilion established the Open DAO Architecture Repository, a public archive where verified structural blueprints for defensive barriers, automated irrigation channels, and non-toxic alchemical extractors were freely distributed to all recognized guilds. Among the millions of pilgrims visiting the market was a delegation from the former Iron Mountain territory, now renamed the Azure Northern Mining Prefecture. Led by Zhao Feng, who had completely renounced his past arrogance and now served as a diligent junior logistics inspector under Master Han Chang. The northern miners delivered 3,000 tons of refined deep void gold to the Skypiercer's dry dock every month. Sect Master Lu's engineering standards have eliminated mining cave-ins across our entire mountain range, Zhao Feng reported during a formal inspection, bowing deeply with genuine gratitude. For 80 years, my clan forced miners to dig by hand under the threat of the lash, losing dozens of lives every winter. Today, automated kinetic drills and gravity stabilization plates do the work of 1,000 men in half the time. The workers are well fed, their families are safe, and the northern province has never known such peace. Lu Shen looked down upon the bustling trade platforms from the command balcony of the Skypiercer, watching human cultivators, beast spirit artisans, and celestial envoys working side by side in harmony. A sword can conquer a kingdom, Cao Feng, Lu Shen reflected quietly, but only a blueprint can build a civilization. Keep the supply lines open, ensure fair compensation for every laborer, and see to it that the northern schools receive their monthly shipments of educational formation slates. By your command, Sovereign Architect. Cao Feng saluted with military precision before returning to his transport vessel. Beside Lu Shen, Qingxue adjusted the scabbard of her celestial glacial blade, her crystal blue eyes shining with pride as she watched the endless stream of celestial starships passing through the golden Stargate archway. Qingxue stated that, Sect Master, the 9 celestial clans have completed the registration of their transport fleets, her voice rich with admiration. Every vessel entering the astral sea now carries the Azure Cloud seal of structural certification. You have not merely built a sect, Lu Shen. You have built a new order for the cosmos. Xiaolinger skipped onto the balcony, holding a golden tray bearing 4 cups of freshly brewed celestial starlight elixir, her twin green buns bouncing with excitement. Senior brother, Lady Yan Yue just sent word from the Imperial capital. The second fleet of 5 modular dreadnoughts, the Sky Guardians, have completed their keel assembly at the Azure Forge. The disciples are awaiting your command to launch. Lu Shen took a cup of the glowing elixir, raising it toward the infinite expanse of the glittering cosmos.
To the disciples of Azure Cloud, Lu Shen smiled, his voice resonating through the bridge and echoing across the vast starlight platforms below. To the artisans who forge the future, and to the eternal blueprints of the heavens, let the second fleet take to the skies. 6 months after the opening of the Celestial Void Ruin Gate, the name of the Azure Cloud Pavilion had become a legendary myth across both the mortal domain and the newly opened lower astral realm.
Where ancient sects once fought bloody wars over scarce spirit veins and crude talisman recipes, a new era of standardized Dao engineering had taken root. Across 30 provinces, automated spiritual greenhouses fed millions. Modular defensive bastions guarded trade routes from demonic incursions, and the Azure Cloud blueprint standards were taught in every major academy from the southern coast to the Central Empire.
Aboard the Skypiercer, cruising smoothly through the tranquil, starlit expanse of the astral sea, Lu Shen stood upon the observation deck with a steaming cup of tea in his hand. Qingxue stood at his side, her silver hair catching the gentle luminescence of passing nebulae, her frost sword resting quietly at her hip. Xiaolinger sat at the navigation console, happily humming as she charted newly discovered spirit crystal asteroid fields. Ding! A soft golden chime echoed in Lu Shen's mind, followed by a radiant cascade of system notifications that filled his retinas with cosmic geometry.
Universal milestone achieved. Planetary Dao infrastructure stabilized. Sect prestige index 1 million plus. Celestial sovereign grand sect. Heavenly blueprint system upgraded. Tier 4. Galactic domain and astral stargate engineering. Processing power unlocked 10 million flops. New horizon detected, the 9 celestial heavenly palaces of the sovereign domain. Lu Shen looked through the transparent crystal viewport into the boundless, gleaming ocean of stars. In the far distance, towering celestial constellations shaped like 9 majestic dragons circled an ancient floating continent made of solid celestial jade. Qingxue stated, "That sect master," softly, a gentle, devoted smile gracing her porcelain face. "The astral gate to the 9 heavenly palaces has aligned. What shall our next blueprint be?" Lu Shen took a slow sip of tea, his amber eyes glowing with infinite ambition, intellect, and serene mastery over the laws of the universe.
In the mortal realm, we built a fortress, Lu Shen smiled, raising his hand as golden blueprint lines reached out to touch the distant stars. In the heavenly domain, we shall build a new universe.